All right, welcome to episode 24 of It's Server Time. We obviously have an excellent and esteemed guest for you guys, a luminary in the esports space. We've got Richard Lewis, and yeah, we're going to talk rosters. But Richard, welcome to the show.
Yeah, man, it's good. I was thinking about this, because I'm getting old. I don't know if you've noticed.
No, I couldn't tell.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm way past my best, I was talking about it with Harry the other day, just saying how cool it is that there is a young generation coming in to sort of take over everything that, us old washed up boomers have been working on for a while. So it's nice to be here with that generation. Even though Pronogo looks like a rock star from the 80s.
It's a vintage look.
Listen, if you looked at my music taste, you'd think the same thing anyway. So it's fit the bill. But no, it's good. It's good to be here. I'm very happy and honored and flattered.
Oh well, I think we're all honored to have you here. I'll introduce everybody else because I'm sure there's some first-time viewers jumping on into the stream, especially at the top right corner. We got Josh Mix, and he has been known for a variety of different teams. I would say, Josh, I think the Cloud9 project probably the biggest one where you're the assistant coach on, but you've had a handful of teams beyond that. I think Norvin most recently you were head coach of, but let's just do it now. What you're looking now for general manager positions, is that correct?
I mean, just manager, more like organization positions in general. Just kind of like the connection I made recently was that I don't necessarily care for the video game aspect of everything, I guess. And so when I'm separated from like the organization, like business management side of things, and I'm like only doing video game stuff, I kind of noticed that's when I just tend to lose a lot of interest and passion in it. So just kind of looking to build myself more into management and things like that.
Okay, all right. Looking towards the future. Note at the bottom left, recently hired as don't let me get the position title wrong. Is it staff writer? Senior staff writer. Senior staff writer at HLTV's. Definitely one to be looking out for. If you see his name on an article, you know it's going to be quality. So Note is
I appreciate that.
Yeah, one of the guys that made it out of the trenches of like dust2.us and other similar type of publications. Not that dust2.us doesn't fill a very important space. You guys are doing. I mean, they are doing a great job. I mean, reporting all the premiere stuff and everything like that. That's definitely a huge blessing that we even have something like that to keep track of it. But Note, I mean, it's obviously a pleasure to have you on. One of the OG members.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, also dust2.us just got a visual update for this year, so I mean, and they have an SSL certificate now, so I mean, if you didn't have an account before, yeah, I know, but like only took 4 years, but if you didn't have an account before, now you should.
Really splashing the cash over there.
I do remember that.
To be fair, it is a port of the dust2.dk site, but I mean, it's nice to actually have like a visual overhaul after this long. But yeah, I mean, working in NACS has always just been a little bit fun. Also, just trying to help rebuild with some of what's happened in the last 2 years. Obviously, it's still like a long process. It's going to take at least another 2 years, I think. But yeah, happy to be a part of it. Happy to be a part of this.
Sweet. All right. Last but not least, we got Pronogo. He was the man for the first handful of episodes, if you go back, that was pushing a lot of the buttons behind the scene. But we decided to give him a little corner right there. Pronogo, honestly, I mean, people still don't probably know the story of you, but you were just jumping out of the page when Davey and I were running the Peakers Advantage podcast in their reboot version of it, as you were a guy that knew what you were going to be doing if you were to be a producer, and you clearly had incredible enthusiasm when it came to Counter-Strike. So I'm still pleased that you're around, because you saved me so much headache in terms of just having to try to put OBS elements together in a way that honestly still eludes me.
Yeah, well, you say that you decided to give me a corner. It's more like I said, hey, I can give myself a corner. And you're like, yeah.
Yeah,
like,
okay. We can't stop you.
I gave myself a corner. There you go. So that was it. That's how we roll around here. Yeah, it's cool to be behind the scenes as well. I mean, there's some element of that I still kind of enjoy the idea of, because then I wouldn't have to, make myself look presentable. But, you just feel better when you look nice. So
I think
I'm sure you guys can relate to that statement as gamers. Yeah.
When I take a shower, I do tend to feel better than the other people.
Yeah.
When I put on deodorant, I do smell better than the other people at my Melee events that I
a couple times a week. You do either.
Yeah.
I would still make him the cleanest person in Smash.
Yeah, exactly.
Deodorant alone will do
a
that.
long way.
Yeah. Okay. So what this episode is about is obviously Rostermania. We were saving a lot of this on the previous episode. We were holding back on some of our thoughts, but there are a ton of things that have happened, and we're going to be going back to the first thing. I mean, we're going to try to make sure that if it's relevant to a team, we're going to include it all, but we are going to go in somewhat of a chronological order here. We're going to be giving our thoughts. We're going to have some kind of looser end questions at the end of these, and let's just get into it. Let's just see how it goes. So the first one I wanted to talk about was the MOUZ move. So this is going to be, obviously, we'll talk about ropz's fate after, but let's talk about what happened to MOUZ in terms of their additions first. So they've now added Torzy after removing Acor as their opper. We have NBK now in the lineup, and they have now promoted Cyclone, who was the MOUZ NXT coach, to the head coaching position. This is a move that I think a lot of people wanted because Acor was not performing up to snuff. I think that was the main storyline for this, that everybody thought that Acor was either the worst or maybe bottom 3 for tier 1 oppers. But what are you guys' thoughts on the NBK aspect of this? Let's start with the guest. Let's go with Rich. What are your thoughts on NBK?
Well, yeah, so obviously we was just talking about this, but I'll expand a little bit on my thoughts. I mean, I think NBK found himself in a very kind of like unfortunate position where it was like, so OG was dysfunctional, it wasn't working, and at that time, he essentially put himself on the chopping block by having like a conflict with the IGL, a disagreement. I've said this before, and Nathan knows I feel this way, and I've known Nathan since he was a kid, and there's no hard feelings about me saying this. I think when things start to go wrong in these teams, and it's interesting because Shox has the same predilection as well, it's when Nathan starts to believe he can be the IGL, or indeed a in-game leader, which it's like, I get it. He's got a fantastic mind for the game, but that's only one facet of being a good in-game leader, and I don't think Nathan has all of the tools to do it. I used to believe he could, but having seen it fail so many times, I have to say the data's not on my side anymore. And so obviously he ended up out of OG when I probably think there was some other culprits that would have deserved to go, but he just said, like, you know, fuck you, AleksiB. So out you go. You know, that's how that works. And he said he would have handled that differently, but I still think he was good enough to be in a team. I still think he was good enough to, be in a tier 1 roster. And I think all the experience he brings, I'm kind of excited because there's young players on this roster still, developing players on this roster still, and who better to learn from than one of the all-time greats? I mean, MBK's inarguably a Hall of Famer.
And go for it, Mix.
I was gonna say I kind of like the MBK move. It's pretty interesting because to me it's not like a 1-to-1 ropz replacement or anything. I think it's them generally kind of moving in a different direction for like the future of the team. I do think that I'm not sure how long like this 5 will last, because I feel that as soon as like maybe the results aren't up to par, or they feel like they're not going to be improving, like they're going to have exertion. They're like there and waiting. So I'm pretty curious as to how long like this will last in terms of like how long they're going to give like this specific lineup to actually build and try to get some results. I'm pretty interested in Torzy. The general consensus seems that he'll do pretty well, and I do agree. But obviously, like it's not always like that simple coming into these teams, right? You know, sometimes you start playing better competition more consistently. Your confidence might take a hit at first, but I think maybe having someone like MBK there and having like his coach from MOUZ NXT there, I think will help him a lot in terms of that transition.
I'm really surprised. Oh, go ahead. No.
I was just going to say, my only thing with Torzy is I don't think he's necessarily a 1-to-1 upgrade for Acor at the moment. He definitely has the potential to improve over time, but it's not necessarily like he adds a ton of.
Oh, you'd be a fucking upgrade to Acor right now. What the fuck are you talking about? Are you fucking serious?
I just mean, in terms of stepping up a level in competition, we don't really know how well he's going to perform. Like, he's really only shown his potential at a lower level. Obviously, it's hard to sort of extrapolate going forward. It's just that from talking to like people who've worked with MOUZ, to me, it seems like part of Acor's issues were sort of making like individual decisions on his own in the server, and that might be something that Torzy also struggles with. But to Mix's point, like adding Cyclone at the same time might help with sort of alleviating that gap a little bit. So my thing is that I think Torzy has more potential long term on this roster. It's just that it's probably going to be a bit of a struggle initially with the way he adapts to making his own decisions in Tier 1 Counter-Strike, I think.
I actually feel like MOUZ have been quite clever here. Didn't have time to sort of articulate it when I was talking about it with Duncan, but having thought about it just now, I think they've actually been really clever because I think the future AWPer on the team, I think we probably will see MHL brought through. He's obviously signed to the academy side. By the way, has an infinitely better pedigree than torzsi. AGO were a legit team, and he's been in and out of that roster. And there was even talk recently that maybe he could go to like NA, or he's only 19. People thought he could be a prospect.
Yeah, he's only 19. That's crazy.
Yeah, but it's what I mean. I feel like he's been playing for AGO for like
same.
2 years.
I've heard rumors that MHL was supposed to go to Liquid and Extrasalt were actually looking at him
Liquid
too.
were interested.
So there were two teams that were interested in
Liquid
him.
rumor too.
Yeah.
And so, if you think about that, right, then the idea he signed for MOUZ Academy seems a bit weird, right? Because obviously, if you could go and play for Liquid, why would you take this deal? Now, I think what they've done is they're like, listen, we've got torzsi under contract no matter what. So we bring him in, we get a look at MHL without the pressure, without the spotlight. And then if it doesn't work out with torzsi, or if MHL just looks like he's going to be lights out and a better fit, we can just quietly swap them and we don't lose anything. So actually what they've done is they've gone out and been quite clever in the sense they've replaced A-Core with 2 AWPing options, both of which I think will be better.
Yes.
But I think the future for MOUZ is with MHL in it, honestly. That's my read on it.
I can see a future with MOUZ with MHL, but the biggest question mark for me is why JDC remained on the Academy roster. I mean, this guy actually has a time limit for how long he can even be on that roster because we played, assuming that they're specifically built for the We Play League anyway, there is that age limit where you cannot be older than a certain amount, and he must be getting close to that.
I think 4 players have to be under the age of 20 and 1 can be over.
Oh, it's actually 21 and 4 players can be 21 and under, and then 1 player can be above 21, and it's almost always the in-game leader of these teams because you want a veteran voice on
aspect, it. So, I mean, just from that angle, I don't know how close he is to that, but that would be something I'd be keeping in my mind is like this guy seems to be doing really, really well. He passes the eye test when you watch him. So why he wasn't on the call up? There was the talk even last episode that we did this where he may have been rumored to be on the call up, and then MBK stepped in. If you're arguing experience, you can't argue against MBK in that situation. But JDC has more recent experience. He's got more recent form, and I think he's more of his career is ahead of him than behind him, which is not the same thing that you can say about MBK in any capacity. So that's my angle. I would say I'm kind of surprised JDC wasn't the one to get called up.
Yeah.
Especially when they call up Cyclone, who I know is like, he's money. I've talked to him. He was on a show of mine a while back. This guy knows what he's talking about from a systems based, and if he can get the teams to buy in, that's something I don't know anything about his leader of man talent, if you will. But as far as actually how he approaches stuff, it does deliver results as we've seen with this Academy League. And even before they had delivered the results, I was bought in. I said, okay, if its players can buy in, then surely they can do things. So he already passed my eye test from that angle. And the fact that he's been promoted now, I think is a great move by MOUZ Sports. Really, the question is whether or not they, we'll get very far with this particular lineup, and maybe they do decide to just keep swapping some more players between the different lineups. But there was that, if you guys remember, there was that Reddit thread about a long time ago now about how there's how long until MOUZ NXT supersede MOUZ in the HLTV rankings.
Yeah.
That's a legit question, or it was a legit question back when the ropz Sports was
not going to happen with Cyclone on the main roster.
Yeah.
The MOUZ NXT team has, in my eyes, taken a step back because I've watched every game that they've played at the Academy League. They are, and we just talked to Exertion today in the post game show about it, and he says that at this point, like, everybody is playing worse than they played last season. And Exertion said pretty specifically that Cyclone was a guy that just gave answers in game. So if basically Shuhei, their IGL, couldn't come up with something, now the responsibility is actually falling on everybody on the roster now. And you can see it's a hidden, it's making all of the players perform a little bit worse now. So I actually rate Cyclone pretty highly in the change that I saw negatively in terms of what happened to MOUZ NXT. And I think that this roster, I kind of will say on paper, it is just a different direction because NBK, he's not going to replace ropz' firepower. torzsi, he might actually do a little bit better than A-Core. He will do a little bit better than A-Core actually. But it's just that this kind of fits the narrative of MOUZ being a team that is one that tries to raise its stock as much as possible and then sells off teams to FaZe clan type organizations, because that's just kind of been their MO for a while, and NBK's the perfect kind of guy to do it. I mean, Duncan has credited him and titled him the Kingmaker in the past, and I don't think that's he's been able to uplift a handful of rosters at this point. I think what's really cool about NBK is that he's gotten introspective enough, and he's recognized that he has autism, and it's incredibly high functioning autism at that, to have been a champion in the way that he has. And I think that now that he can approach every team with that kind of mindset, that he knows his own limits and capabilities, and everybody around him knows what he's privy to do because of his condition, then it's going to actually put MOUZ in a position where they should probably, like, Frozen should be a top 20 player. Torzy has the chance to show that he can compete on the tier 1 stage. Now, and then the question to me kind of becomes, can Dexter keep up with this team? Because I feel like his IGLing has been flat out bad for the last 6 months. And then I think, can Bemis be a tier 1 player too? I also think that right now it's really, like, the grading for Bemis has been incredibly unfair, because he's just being this blind entry fragger in half the rounds, and it just looks like trash. It looks like there's not enough structure for him to succeed. But if NBK gives him and adds to the structure of MOUZ, then maybe Bemis can elevate his own play. Maybe NBK takes some of the bitch spots away from Bemis, and then Bemis can actually show the talent that made, Nico think he was a bold prediction, worthy of a bold prediction a couple of years ago.
Yeah, worthy of being on the FaZe Clan roster for a very small amount of time too, and then fuck you, we don't need you. What gets me about the MOUZ move ultimately is, like, NBK, this move makes sense for him if he's got 4 or 5 more years in him, even 2-3 more years in his career at top level Counter-Strike, because this is where he proves everybody he's still got it and then moves on to another team, right? This is like a higher level, Copenhagen Flames. This is a roster that you can prove yourself on. You just said the Maui Snake. There's all these different questions for all the individual players. The answers to which we only get positive answers of if they move on to another team and prove it afterwards. Like, this is they proved that they can be worthy of a higher level team. I think as soon as karrigan left this roster, man, like the MOUZ Sports organization just went back to not being interested in contending for titles and more so being interested in being a glorified farm team. And there's nothing wrong with being a glorified farm team, but I'm still back a few years ago with my mental expectations of them, where karrigan was on the roster and ropz was doing pretty well, and they were in contention for titles, and they did play really well. Obviously, they had the one-off in 2021, but even beyond that, it's like, where's the oomph behind this team now? Like, where is, like, what's really going to set them apart? I don't think that they'll be competing at least for titles at a tier 1 level anytime soon with this particular lineup. Not. And even with the lineup that they can make, right? With the lineups that they can make with the members below, it does feel more like a feeder team. And maybe that's fine, but it feels a bit sad to see the MOUZ Sports go that direction now, after I'm still calling them MOUZ Sports even. I'm not even adhering to their rebrand. So you can tell I'm in the past with this team as far as, like, where I would like them to be. But yeah, you can't root for them anymore is basically what I'm saying, if you're trying to get them to see, tier 1 play.
Yeah, I just think the Dexter experiment failed, right? I mean, fair enough. He got an opportunity. I think he had a pretty decent roster and a pretty decent shot at doing something with MOUZ. They've been absolutely fucking woeful. They started out mediocre and got worse. And it's been over a year now. It's like, fuck it. For me, I think it's commendable, the org giving him new tools to work with. For me, I'd be looking to cut the snake's head off. I'd be looking to fucking get a new IGL, frankly, before I let Dexter touch these players. It's just like, he had a better roster than this and did fuck all with it. I lay a lot of the blame squarely on his doorstep. Frankly.
I'm wondering if the NBK edition was in part because of that lack of confidence in Dexter, because then you have like a more experienced player coming in who can add on some leadership. Yeah, exactly. So I think that was probably a big factor in it.
Like in the last MOUZ team, like, who exactly was helping him, like, with calling, like the secondary calling? I think
they said it was ropz, right?
Was it ropz?
I think they said he at least did some contribution.
He did, because
probably was towards the end. I mean, you know what it's like when he gets frustrated. I mean, he could have left a year ago.
Yeah,
so
I'm kind of surprised he didn't. Like, why did he stay for that long? Do we know?
Some
Is there
people
any-
like masochism. Again, you can see my porn searches for that. Just to bring it back into a bit that isn't going to be in the YouTube policy.
Yeah, no.
You've
I'm
read
not even going
yourself.
to get that reference. I might have talking
God
about
damn it.
porn or whatever.
This video was going to have so many views, and now it's demonetized, but that's okay.
I'm just curious if like Dexter had like a lot of say in like the
Porn is
MDK move.
fine. The word porn is fine.
Okay, well, thanks. Now I can submit that for the ad check. All right, cool.
Classic. Where were you, Mix?
I think we've summed this one up quickly. There's quite a few moves we got to get through, so let's do this one. All right. So in conjunction with this one, obviously, I mean, there was a player that obviously left that spurred this whole movement, and that's ropz departing. What do we think now of this new FaZe roster? Because they were kind of daddling in kind of that, I'd say top 10-ish, top 8 to 12th range for the duration of the previous 5-man lineup. And now that they have ropz, I think this is probably one of the clearest upgrades on paper you could have asked for. And this should be the missing piece for the narrative sake of FaZe.
I think the ropz and twist duo is going to be one of the scariest rifling duos in the world, and I don't think that's even like a bold statement to make. They're just going to be easily one of the top rifling duos in the world for this entire year. The thing for me is that if this move fails to sort of revitalize FaZe or bring them to like a consistent top 2, top 3 status, then we sort of hit a problem. Now, is that actually going to happen or not? I'm not sure. This for me is like karrigan's final test, really, in terms of like whether he can lead an entire roster to like a consistent world-beating level. Because now he has every piece you could possibly ask for.
I kind of disagree with that because I still think that like FaZe overall maybe lacks a bit compared to like the Navis and even the G2s of the world. I still think that karrigan, Brokey, and Rain is like a lot less fragging power than like a lot of like those teams have in terms of like the bottom 3. karrigan always like is just sacrificing himself. He's never going to be like a sick fragger or anything. But like Rain has been like pretty underwhelming like the last year or so. Brokey's good on the op, but he's not like a superstar opper that, is like dropping like 1.25 ratings every event or something. He's very clutch, he's active. I think he's a good opper, but is he really like on the same level as like the top oppers of the world? I probably wouldn't say so. So I think they have like a really sick rifling duo, like you said, between twist and ropz. But I do wonder if like the other 3 are going to lack the amount of firepower that they need to actually compete with teams like Navi. Consistently, at least.
Yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment. I mean, as far as the opping is concerned, at least, I'm not out on Brokey, but I'm not in on him either. You know what I mean? I'm riding the fence until I see more.
I mean, Brokey isn't like a top opper either. Like, the thing is that if he does what, like, if Monacy does,
are you disagreeing with the HLTV top 20 list? Is that what I'm hearing right now? No,
that is not what I said. No. For me, if Monacy can do what Brokey does on FaZe, then G2 can also compete at a top level. So I think to me, it's sort of equal in that sense. Like, Brokey doesn't have to be a world-beating opper for this team to contend at the top level. Like, I don't think that necessarily is a given to become the best team in the world.
It makes you have to play differently, doesn't it? I mean, like, it makes you have to play very differently if you don't have a world-class opper, or even like a top-class competitive opper. And I mean, maybe we're underselling Brokey here. Like, he's able to at least compete with the oppers that haven't broken out and proven that they can play at the uppermost level and challenge the gods. But, I'm not saying you need a Simple or even a Zywoo or anything like that, but you probably need somebody somewhere in between. Like, not as good as Shiro maybe, but still very solid and respectable. You could say Elian from Entropic. Like, you need an opper who can control the game at least a few rounds. And most of the time, I haven't really seen Brokey do that. A little flashes at the major, but again, I need to see that consistently. And then I can say, yes, FaZe top 10 guarantee lock.
Rich, what's your take?
Oh, for me, just for a bit of context, because not a lot of people like to accept this. Like, for the first time in his career, karrigan disappointed me. And I've known him a long time, obviously, because I'm a fucking old boomer and I've known everyone a long time, except you crazy kids. But I go back with karrigan, right? And right there from his transition into being an in-game leader, and I've always said, pretty much everything he's ever said, agree with it. Pretty much every decision he's ever made, can fuck with it. Think his way of instantly making teams better, love it. Think the way he does things by committee can be his downfall sometimes, but it works in the short term. And so this is the first time he's just pissed me the fuck off as a fan of the game. because when he started talking about how he needs a year to get this team together and how he doesn't give a fuck about the online era, I think, listen, you're selling FaZe fans unbelievably short. And probably what he wasn't cognizant of is you have a fucking responsibility in the pandemic times where FaZe can just drop you at any fucking time and they will not be coming back. They'll be over the green hills and far away, and that's one less org in esports. So do not waste their time. Do not say you're taking it easy. Even if you are, don't say that. Because if they go, what the fuck are we paying for? These cunts are going out 9th to 12th all the time. Well, they're gonna up sticks. So I hated that. I hated that attitude. I hated the fact as well that when it got to LAN and they did have a good run and they got like 3rd to 4th or whatever it was, they were like, see, told you so. Da, da, da. And then they were instantly shit again. So listen, the other thing is this idea that Olofmeister was just going to somehow like a phoenix from the fucking flames. It's 2015 again, guys. Oh, please, I'd like it if my knees worked and my back didn't hurt and I could make it through a fucking night without having to get up to piss. I would love it, but it's not 2015. It's never going to be 2015. And Olofmeister basically is the equivalent of my knees, my back, and my bladder. He's garbage now. He had like that one good tournament and everyone went, see, his confidence is back. Obviously, it coincided with their run. He was trash since. He was one of the lowest rated players at almost every other tournament he attended. I know he's CS royalty. Nothing lasts forever. Remember, get right at the end. You don't want to. That's the point. So they had to cut him from the roster at some point. I see a lot of FaZe fans saying, Olof's not even the problem, but what about Rain?
Oh,
Not my sweet, beautiful Rain. I know he's playing like trash right now. What can you do when you've got like a massive drag factor like Olofmeister and a disinterested IGL who's literally saying, don't worry, guys, we're definitely going to replace this bum. And when we do, that's the real run at the team. And Rain's the soldier. Rain is fucking FaZe. He's been on the roster the longest out of anyone. So, fuck that noise. I think Rain will be mustard, and he will be playing in a different position, in a different role, once they bed ropz in. I've seen a lot as well, people are going, oh, it's a like-for-like swap with Olof. What, you don't think ropz is going to get his touches? You don't think ropz is going to get his position? So, here's what I'm going to say. I agree with the idea that, like, ropz and Twist can be, like, one of the best rifle parents in the world. Don't think that's a controversial statement. But karrigan needs to pull his finger out. Failure will not be tolerated now. You have got the perfect lineup. You wanted all of the pieces to be the number one team in the world. If you can topple Na'Vi, and karrigan's the man with the mind to do it, right? It's going to be a really competitive top 5. But people can't accept failure from this FaZe lineup. And if they do flop in Q1, fuck it. If I was FaZe, I'd pull the plug.
This is the karrigan thing strikes me pretty hard because around Flashpoint 3, I was playing a season of Premier right before that, and the nades that I was using on my team in Premier were better nades, objectively better for a lot of reasons than the nades I was seeing FaZe throw. And in fact, some of the nades that I saw them throw for like cat execs and things on Dust 2, we looked at that with the team I was playing on and the players that I just played with, and we're like, why are they throwing nades from 2 years ago? Like it's just like, you need to look at more demos. You need to watch more and study more. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it because it took like the smoke. Basically, what I'm talking about is there's like the corner smoke, which people use to scale up catwalk, and there's a smoke that basically lands a second and a half faster. And then they were even throwing some smokes for the long cross that were just slower. They just land slower than the ones that people know nowadays. And coldzera literally died one time because the smoke didn't bloom and he was already trying to run across. And it was just like, wow, you guys messed up an execute when you guys had no pressure on you at all in this round. Those kind of moments to me thought that
ESCA Premier teams are doing that correctly.
Yeah, exactly. So I was super sold out. I was not sold on what I was seeing from karrigan then. I mean, you said it, Rich, that when they got to LAN, okay, it worked out or whatever for them. But either way, I mean, like the fact is that they weren't prepping as hard as other teams at the time were prepping. That can't happen. You can't have a team led by karrigan that is not putting in the demo work, because he's got to be the guy that does it. I don't think the supporting staff, the coach staff is not nearly as strong as some other teams who have, assistant coach, strategic coach. Like there's just so many people now behind the scenes that are helping these teams out. So karrigan has to put in much more work in my eyes. I think I was just going to say, there's just one more point I wanted to make because I forgot to add it in there because
was quite a litany of thoughts. I know it seems the gallery here isn't in on Brokey, and I said I was, and I'll clarify why. Because I don't think, put it this, apart from the fact that Brokey wasn't an AWPer when he started, right? Like, so think about the fact that he's even up there, and we're talking about him now as a top AWPer in the world.
He came in playing like bitch spots, like
yeah, exactly. So, like, it's actually a great example to people that piss and moan about how they don't get their spots or they don't get the guns they want or whatever. It's all right. Brokey just completely reinvented himself as a super consistent AWPer in the most difficult position to play, the most high impact role on any team. And by the way, he's got the secret fucking life hack to everything that you do: consistency. Consistency is the most important quality. I don't want streaky motherfuckers that are 3 months excellent and then 3 months out of the game. I can't rely on that. I can't work around that. I can't build that. Same for anything. I don't want news writers who come in hot for 3 months and drop 4 fucking news articles a day and then disappear for 3 months because they get jaded or burnt out. No one knows exactly what I'm talking about. So you don't want those. Consistency is key to almost every facet of life. And so Brokey's got that. He's a fucking lights out, 20 frag a game, guaranteed, consistent AWPer, good for 2-3 clutch rounds a game. I'll take that any day of the week. I'll take that over some of the bigger names out there, frankly. So, like I say, it's put up or shut up time for karrigan. Like, there is no flaw outside of the tactical framework he comes up with. It's on him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about nades, karrigan, where's your nade protocols? I'll put it this way, right? Obviously, we saw olofmeister at LAN. It was 2015. So if he's using nades that are 2 years old, that's time traveling for olofmeister. You got to give him props. You got to give him respect.
Yeah. That did fit him out. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. I think we got down to the main points of that one. All right, so we got another Academy lit player that got promoted. We had Monacy moving to G2. I thought this was going to be a move to replace Jax, but it looks like Jax will be staying, and it's going to be Amanek that's out of the roster. I was shocked by that, and I want to just say first and foremost that I think that makes this move for me go from a B+ to a B-. I thought I don't want. What? Yeah.
So from what I know about G2, like the reason they would opt to keep someone like Jax over Amanek. Also, Amanek is just kind of weird in general sometimes in terms of how he plays CS and some of the stories I've heard from like Alex or something. And with Jax, it's like he's consistent.
Wait. What have you heard? What have you heard that's weird about Amanek?
So I've heard from Amanek that like he would watch a demo, right? And he would watch a demo on like ramp or something, and he would see someone rotate down to lower because the other team threw smokes, but all he would see is that they rotated down at like 125. So Amanek would just take that and just rotate down to lower at 125 without like them smoking outside or anything. So there's just like
the lack of why in some of the situations. Yeah. Just the what happened. Okay.
Yeah. So he lacks the lack of why from what I know, but also with what I know from Jax is that he's like the only person in the team that's like consistently with like a good like positive attitude, able to always like be joking, keep the attitude up tempo, which I always think is like really important to have at least someone in some team. If you have like 5 people that are just going full on emo, like I'm sure they did before Jax with like Kenny S and Nico and Hunter Nexa, I don't know how they react, but if everyone's just getting emo like super easily and then no one's there to like change the mood or lighten the mood up a little bit, it just creates like a team environment that I think is really tough to play in like day in and day out, because that stuff goes into scrims too. Like people get emo all the time in scrims and it just ruins practice days. So
it's important to have a handsome guy on the team. I'll say that. It's important to, and Jax is probably the top tier right now.
I just think that an overweight gremlin as well.
Yeah,
that's real talk.
That's why they're doing the AleksiB part 2, which we should talk about that in this as well. You got to just make the team more handsome overall.
You said that shit, not me.
So overall, I just think Jax is like a better fit for an overall team like this than I think Amanek would be.
I'm kind of interested.
I think Hunter is also.
Go ahead.
Handsome?
I think Hunter has also said that like Jax added a lot of like emotional hype to the team essentially. So that aspect of it can't really be left out, because when Jax came back to the main lineup, then Hunter's performance also improved, just like in terms of his own individual form. So it could be like a sort of intangible addition in terms of what he brings to the lineup over fragging. So that also is a component in it on top of everything else.
Yeah. So what I would say about this is, for me, what it looks like is they made there was a post from Hunter about Amanak recently that said, like, he played essentially, like, he decided to do whatever it took for the team, and he would do whatever it was, no questions asked. So he's a hard worker. Ultimately, if he got more op kills, they probably wouldn't have cut him, or they probably would have at least had more thoughts about cutting him. If he was just playing better and delivering better, that maybe it's a different conversation. What it feels like to me is that they put it all cards on the table. Here's what Jax brings, and here's what Amanek brings. And Jax brings more stuff, even though Amanek is really trying hard. And so as much as it hurts us as people, we have to make the cut for the team. Also, I'm interested as well, and I don't know if anybody has insight onto this, but the fact that obviously the IGLs were swapping. I know MOUZ, you initially said that we should talk about the m0NESY move. We'll get to that eventually.
No, we could do both. We could do both. We could do all of G2.
But the fact that the AleksiB move is coming in, I'm so excited for this move personally, but I'm really curious as to whether or not he had any input in what happens, like what other player gets cut, like who we bring in m0NESY for, basically. I wonder if there was any discussion before that, if there was negotiation. I'm not going to come unless you do this move instead of that move. Like, I don't know what was going on. I mean, we can't really trust the people in the team anyway, because Hunter was obviously infamously tweeting out, or wherever he posted it, that this team isn't making roster changes. What do you mean? After the major. And then, well, we know how long that lasted. So I'm curious about that. I really am interested in the fate of this team once AleksiB comes in, and especially given the body, the kinds of players he has. This is a chance for him to really go back to like way even higher than what the ENCE camp did in their heyday. If he can adapt his system, and if he can receive the pushback and actually incorporate it, because something that we've all observed in general, I think, is that AleksiB doesn't really get that much pushback from the support staff and from the other players. He's the most tenured player, or he's been to the highest highs that a lot of his whole team has been, right? If you think about Danish Nico, if you think about Mantu, who like role swapped in order to get into OG. NBK was the only player who had more experience than him, it feels like. And even then, obviously, NBK didn't last very long in the lineup itself. So all that put together, I just feel like this is finally a chance where AleksiB comes in, and he's coming into a team that's already built in some respects. There's hype around a lot of players, m0NESY, Nico. There's the fact that I do like the idea that he went from one Nico to the other, by the way. That's a nice little sub story. But you get through all that, and you're thinking, wow, this is finally a situation where AleksiB can't call all of the shots unless he gets the buy-in. He can't just rely on his own pedigree. He can't rely on his own history. And so if he can channel that, and if he can do that right, this team could actually be top one.
It's a huge test for him, not just in terms of like his calling and having these personalities like Nico on the team already, but also in terms of how he plays in game. Because normally, like on the CT sides, he's like always in like the main positions, like CT rotator on Dust 2, or like
plays con
Nuke
sometimes on Mirage. Yeah,
on so he's like so he's like in all these like kind of like what you would normally switch with like the star player positions. And obviously, like you have Nico here, you have Hunter here now. I mean, Jax is going to give up whatever roles for AleksiB to make him at least somewhat comfortable, but now he's not going to be able to just plot himself in like all these roles. Like he's going to have to play around Nico a bit more. He's not like one of the main focal points of the team. He's like
that's
the fourth most
upgrade.
Important. Yeah.
I think that's a huge upgrade for an AleksiB team, because I think one of the flaws of OG was that AleksiB was putting himself in the most pivotal CT positions consistently when you have players like Valde playing ramp. I didn't understand why he was going to be fighting outside round in, round out when you have Valde on the roster. And I know Nico's not going to bow down to Aleksi in terms of the spots that he wants. So I'm hyped to see what Aleksi. I'm not hyped to see necessarily what Aleksi does in his new spots, but I'm hyped to see that he's not a CT spot. He's not a CT focal point anymore for his team.
Yeah, I mean, I think Aleksi's got probably one of the toughest gigs ahead. Similar thought process to talking about karrigan. I mean, AleksiB, he's been airlifted out of OG at a time when they were adamant they were going to make no changes to the team. I interviewed their CEO. He said minimum 6 months. He was actually reading between the lines, getting cut off at the knees a little bit, because the CEO said, we're going to make Rugger, their coach, more involved in the strats, because they felt AleksiB's playbook was overcomplicated in some areas, and that's why they were struggling to execute, that not all the players could get on that same page, but AleksiB was a little bit inflexible. Now that, to me, knowing that, and then looking at G2, thinking about the other intangibles, like, first of all, I want to say something. We probably should have said it on By the Numbers, but you guys can get it.
Give it to us.
I'm massively impressed with the level of maturity and development Nico's showing at this stage in his career, because it's not just him calling who's on the roster now. Carlos is having that input, and Nico's acquiescing and saying. It's not just Nico getting all of his spots. He actually gave up some spots for Hunter, and honestly, I don't think you have to be related by blood to get them off him now. I think he's definitely matured. And he wants to win. And having got so close, and by the way, I saw him after the final at the major, and he felt sick. He felt physically ill and missing that deagle shot and was putting so much pressure on himself, and he was like really despondent. And I think he just wants to win now. He just wants to get his major. And so he's going to buy into the system. So that suddenly creates... The pressure isn't on the guys that remain. The pressure is on AleksiB to take a fantastically talented roster that was like second in the world at the end of the year and continue that development and make them the team that topples Na'Vi. And the other one is MOUZ. The expectation on that kid is like nothing I've ever seen. You couldn't even compare it to Kuster, who was going to be the savior of NA, right? And look what the fuck happened there.
It's become too much. I'll say it again. I've said it on some other shows, maybe even on the We Play broadcast itself. MOUZ is flat out, in my eyes, the most mechanically skilled, fastest, most consistent in terms of his mechanics opper that wasn't in the tier 1. I haven't seen a single other opper, including OC, Safe, all these other guys, Torzi, MHL, that is as pinpoint precise as frequently as MOUZ. He could literally just peak ramp on vertigo in any position and just flick instantaneously to where the guy is. Like, it was the most impressive hand-eye coordination I've seen since legitimately for an opper since basically Simple and Zywoo. Like, I don't know anybody else that could do it as well as he did. So it was like you sometimes would see, with Acor, for example, you see the crosshair move to the guy. You don't see MONUZ's crosshair move to anybody. They're dead. They're just dead, and he's unscoped all of a sudden. So I too am going to perpetuate the hype. It's just the fact that he has no maps played. He basically has under 10 maps played on multiple maps in the active duty pool. That's incredible that they put that much stock into him, that they bought him for the price that they did. But somehow, like, everyone has also said behind the scenes, like, James Banks kind of had a nice line to the Na'Vi camp, and so he knew like what Bladewood and Simple and all those guys were thinking about MONUZ. His work ethic, his attitude about everything was top notch. Like, they saw that this guy was not only incredibly skilled, but he was an incredibly hard worker. He's going to learn. And if he doesn't, I don't know what would have to happen for him to not learn, because I actually just think that his ethic is, everything's there. It's just he has to get some reps in. It doesn't even need to be too many reps.
I'm really worried about where his head's going to be at coming into this. 100%. Young guy, definitely got the bag. Is going to be outside of that Na'Vi system that he's used to. Is going to have loads of pressure. And it's going to the problems are going to manifest in one or two ways if history teaches us anything. And that is that it's either going to be he's going to perform and the ego is going to kick in, and there'll be a moment where he'll clash with someone on the team, or he'll say something stupid on social media about how the team's performing. And that's very possible. People gas up young players now. You have one good game, you drop 40 kills, everyone on Twitter tells you you're the shit. People start believing that stuff. Seen that happen a bunch. Not everyone is as based as Zywoo.
I don't understand how he has like no ego, like just doesn't give a fuck.
Just a farmer.
Yeah, just like motherfucker just literally up at fucking 5 a.m. picking up eggs out of a field. Like,
yeah, literally.
Just fucking players all the time, you mad cunt. Like, just none of that. And
apparently doesn't get jet lag either.
No, just why would he?
Immortal.
I don't think he's human.
When you're eating eggs that fresh, you don't get jet lagged, actually.
But then on the other side of the equation, it's either he starts slow, has underperformance, because Maui's right. His reaction speed, his hand-eye coordination, it's up there with anything I've ever seen in the game. No joke. And I've watched a lot of this kid, and I watched a lot of kids come through the scene, but it's different when you've got an in-game leader in your ear telling you don't peek, don't go here, micromanaging what you're doing. and telling you not to play your natural game. And so, unfortunately, I don't think he's going to have the license he had in an academy side where he's the clear star and he's earmarked for greatness, and Na'Vi are looking to sell him because, you know, he can't replace Simple. So there's problems ahead, I think. What are the chances that a young, incredible talent that's good enough to be the best player in the world with the raw skills he has joins a fucking superstar team that has one of the biggest spotlights shone on it in the world? Like, see the music video G2 did the other day, 3.5 million views on it, on a fucking music video they made. He's in that spotlight now. What are the odds that kid just keeps his head down and plays well? I've only ever seen it happen with ZywOo, and he's a phenom and a very unique personality. So I got worries. I do got worries about G2, honestly.
Yeah, the expectation being that you have to go the same route as ZywOo did, like that's pretty insane. I mean, you say that that's a crazy expectation out loud when you're thinking about it, but then you look at the dollar.
Actually expects.
Yeah, you look at the dollar amount. You look at the expectations, the hype, the fact that G2 are leading into it. It's not like, even if it's a crazy expectation, it's not something that's fringe. It's literally the team themselves saying, this is what we expect of you. And obviously that means that the whole rest of the fan base, they were probably going to do that anyway. But they see somebody hyped up coming in. Oh yeah, sure, Counter-Strike just has unlimited ZywOos. Dude, we'll just get so many ZywOos, all the ZywOos. And, you know, here's one with a 0 in his name. So yeah, there you go. But what gets me about MOUZ too is that, like, if I'm AleksiB coming into this team, I'm immediately focused on, like, yeah, I got to make Nico happy, but at the same time, he's matured a little bit. Maybe I don't have to focus all my attention into him. The first thing I do is make sure this MOUZ kid is happy and make sure he's, like, settled in. Because if you looked at the HLTV interview that the guys over there did with him, the one that the headline was, "I'm sure I'm ready for tier 1." There's some interesting things in that article. One of which is a quote where he says, "I was away from my family for 3 months. It was really hard." That's 3 months. Like, you're not going to get all expenses paid vacations, trip back and forth in tier 1 CS.
But you can already see the shades of ego, like, creeping in. I don't mind, by the way, saying I'm ready for tier 1. He's ready for tier 1.
Sure.
He told no lies, right? He could be humble and play it down. Like, you know, a ZywOo answer, for example, would have been, I just play the best Counter-Strike I can.
Yeah. I don't care about
I mean, I think going into G2, you need that ego, though.
Yeah,
like,
and that's
to perform.
That's fine.
It's actually beneficial.
It was the other interview, the one prior to that, where he was, like, talking about, like, device and, like, answering these fucking questions where it's just like, MOUZ's opinion on device is meaningless. It's meaningless. You've done fuck all in the game, kid. Like, who are you? And, like, by the way, I don't think anyone should be asking him those questions, but whatever. But, like, he's talking about device going, yeah, and he said he doesn't even want to be on NIP anymore, and it's definitely affected his game. You are no one to make that assessment. You are nobody to make that assessment. And the fact that you are already in a headspace, I'll just talk about one of the greatest players of all time. Like, no, honestly, if you flop, you're going to be one of the most expensive flops in the game. You don't want that on you. You don't want to be remembered like that. As I said, Kusta wasn't even one of the most expensive players. He was just meant to be the best player in NA, joined the best team in NA, and then fucking flopped. And he was miserable for 4 years. He was out of his mind, depressed about it. And you could see it wasn't until he got another run at Ghost Gaming that he got to prove himself. Bizarrely as a fucking rifler, but whatever. So there's a lot at stake here. This kid wants to keep his head down. Maybe next time HLTV picks up the phone to do an interview, don't take the call. Just say, actually, no, I want to concentrate on the game. If I was managing that team, I want him dialed all the fucking way in and out of the spotlight as much as possible. I want him to do his talking on the server, and I'm just worried this kid doesn't want that. I think he wants to be number one, superstar, look at me. You know, not even Simple is answering questions like MOUZ was answering these questions. It's like, it's insane. So I am worried about that little green-eyed.
I want to tell one little MOUZ story that I think it might have greater implications when he moves to G2. Is that apparently when he was on the Na'Vi Junior lineup, he was spending a lot of time with Simple, and Simple actually wanted to give him like a fat ass gold chain, and Blade had to be the one that vetoed this move. Like, he was going to give him something that was probably worth like 5 figures or something, and Blade had to be the one that said no. I'm curious if Nico, like, they do well at a tournament, MOUZ pops off, Nico wants to give him something, is that going to inflate his ego? Is there going to be a Blade figure that's going to stop this from happening? Or is Nico going to be even the one that just doesn't give him something? I feel like those kind of moments are ones where you just kind of, your ego does inflate to a point where it's hard. It can be hard to control it, and you have to recognize that, it's still, the journey is still on. You're not at the destination.
So two things I want to touch on quickly is one, like, yeah, there is a lot of these expectations on m0NESY, and he has that whole mentality where he thinks he can come into tier 1 and just blast away the competition. For me, that's not necessarily even what, like, he doesn't have to achieve that level. Obviously, it's part of the expectation, and if he hits that sort of level, then yes, G2 is going to be insane. But even if he brings like a very consistent, like decent level of opping to this team, they can still play really well. G2 was already doing really well as a team beforehand. And to me, in comparison to Brokey, as I said earlier, if he can sort of bring that sort of level to this team, they can still perform very well. And as long as he's given the time to develop over time, then he might be able to reach that superstar level over time if he doesn't have it immediately as well.
You just have to be careful with how... I was going to say, you have to be careful like how you develop him, because if you start off with like, okay, so, we're going to keep you on a leash for now, like we're going to tell you how to play and all this stuff. And it's like, I really don't think it's like the good way to do that. I want them to do with m0NESY the same way I want Liquid to do with OC, which is like, just give them the fucking green light to do whatever they want to start, like, let them feel comfortable, make the plays, and then just reel them in from there, like, start to mold and adapt them to, like, your style from there, And
you'll notice absolutely zero, like, there's no crazy expectation on him, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think so. I don't think everyone's expecting OC to come out. He'll surprise a lot of people as well, because he's definitely ready, and he's got his head switched on.
So to my second point, the one thing that we haven't really touched on here yet is the fact that XTAZ is coming into this lineup as a coach, or reported to be. So I think having that sort of stability and that, like, somebody who brought so much to Vitality in terms of just presence in the server and outside of it, helping develop a talent like ZywOo and already sort of bringing up that sort of star, I think XTAZ will truly be able to help a player like m0NESY grow as he makes his first foray into tier 1 here, let alone what else he's going to add to the roster overall.
Completely dependent, though, because you will notice that over in Vitality, he was the fucking boss. Like, I mean, he had the chops to be able to drop Apeks for a fucking tournament. Not many coaches get that leeway. Mix will tell you about that. So, the reality there is, he's not going to have that level of autonomy at G2. He's going to have a Nico to deal with, an AleksiB to deal with, now a m0NESY to deal with. Trust me, a motherfucking Carlos to deal with as well. And so he's going to have to adapt to a way of operating that he's always had for pretty much the entirety of his career. He's beloved in the French scene, by the way. Everyone loves this guy and respects this guy. And so he's not going to have that same level of leeway over at G2. I think it's going to be a big challenge for him. I think tactically, he's up there with the best. He's up there with Zonic, no doubt. How he adapts to sort of interacting with this team is going to be a key, crucial test for G2 success.
I mean, for me, it's not even the control over the roster that you could have. It's more the actual, like, individual backing per player you can have when they're playing matches on LAN, and also just in coaching in general. Because seeing him behind Vitality at Blast, for example, when I was there, like, you can tell that he adds a lot of emotional stability and also brings a lot of hype to the server for the players. And so being able to do that to G2, especially with the lineup as with m0NESY coming in as a fresh player, I think that's going to be a massive developmental benefit to the team as a whole, regardless of whether he has a lot of control over the roster or not.
Okay, I want to move over to the other side of this trade, though, the AleksiB Nexa swap. Let's talk about what this means for OG. Let's go. So Nexa is going to be coming in. I guess reported as of recently the fact that Valde is not going to be leaving this team for EG. The Nexa for AleksiB. I just want to ask flat out: do you guys think this team gets better or worse?
I feel like it's probably there's a honeymoon period. I think there is a slight honeymoon period, but I don't know if it's an appreciable difference, because I think the problems with this team, you can make an argument that it was them getting stuck in the mud with AleksiB's strat book. You can make an argument that, okay, it was just too stale. He never got any pushback. He never reinvented himself, so the team became too easy to read. It was stuck in their own meta that didn't work. Whatever argument you want to make about that. But for me, the biggest question mark, I mean, I'm glad they kept Valde, because if Valde had gone to EG, as was initially rumored, man, that would have been the end of OG. Like, I don't care who you get as an IGL. You could have like the best player. It doesn't matter because you don't have the star power and the firepower. Valde is a really good player unto himself. People probably forgot about that just because of his stint in OG hasn't been the most exciting, but that's because the whole team hasn't really hit all the tournaments that they needed to hit. They haven't gotten all the playoff runs that they were supposed to get, in air quotes. The few times that they did during the online era, they went out and got owned by FaZe Clan in I think it was a best of 5 grand final, one of the ESL tournaments that all blend together. Of course, that was back in 2020, I believe. And then, they've done they've made a few appearances, but it was nothing special. So basically, I think they almost need a honeymoon period. I was saying that I think it's likely because now they're bringing in Nexa. There's going to be that like little part where they coast off of AleksiB's strats and then start to work in Nexa's differences, and eventually they shape that into something different. But he's going to really have to work magic, and he doesn't have nearly the same tools that he had on G2. So I'm not sure, man. I think Nexa's got his work cut out for him in this team, and they probably need something special in the first 3 months, we'll say, before they decide whether or not they're continuing with this direction.
Yeah, I don't know about this at all, because, I never really rated Nexa as an IGL. But then again, you have to say a big part of the failure over at OG's got to blame AleksiB for it. Same standard I would hold any IGL to, and maybe a change of scene is what they need. Maybe there is some truth in the playbook being too complicated and the tactics not working out, and Nexa's got something that works that can simplify it. Also, as well, remember, this is going to be an OG that's finally free and clear of the specter of whether or not Nico's going to get fucking permanently banned.
Yep.
Which AleksiB never had that luxury. So, it's a fresh start, fresh, kind of mentality, fresh mindset around the team. One thing I will say about OG is, as an org, they do have a great support structure for their players. But yeah, I don't see Nexa reinventing the wheel. I never thought he was that good when he was here. He just seemed to be a relatively solid IGL, occasionally capable of fragging, that had the buy-in of the players around him for reasons. That's... does anyone think Nexa was like fucking... I don't mastermind.
See, it's really tough to believe that Nexa was a good IGL because so much of G2's T sides were just predicated off of Nico getting an opening kill or not getting an opening kill in a default. So yeah, what have you got? Max?
I was gonna say, I also think back to Nexa and Crazy, for example, where sometimes these teams are just a better fit for someone. He
made Esperanto look good, actually.
Yeah, he's going from IGLing, having the IGL for what's supposed to be a top 5 team in G2 with Nico and all these big names and these high expectations, back into a team where it's the expectations are a lot lower. He probably, I assume, has a lot more freedom, probably feels a lot less pressure on himself during the calling. So that type of thing can really just help you mesh. I'm not sure how they'll change up the roles, if Nexa just wants to slot into AleksiB's roles, or maybe he'll try to make Valde and Flames try to activate them a bit more. So in a way, I could see Nexa's more simplified calling, especially still working off of some of the structure AleksiB had in place before, actually really helping them mesh together a lot better. And maybe, I'm not going to say they're going to be a top 5 team or anything, but top 10, somewhere around there, being able to being a really dangerous team to some of the top teams just because of how well they mesh with Nexa's style, possibly.
Yeah, I don't know. I think unfortunately there's just too many seismic moves above OG. I can't see them being in the top 10.
Yeah, probably not around the top 10 consistently, but 12, 15 around there, and then able to make some good runs in tournament stuff that. Just a bit of a dangerous team.
And there are some questions, obviously FURIA have made roster moves, and Tropic aren't going to stay 9th, right? Copenhagen Flames are going to fall the fuck off. They were a flash in the pan. A Godsent going to remain the most improved team in World Counter-Strike. I get it, but yeah, for me, I just feel that OG's a team that from its inception, it feels to me that they've actually been slowly downgrading each time. And I kind of feel this has happened again with Nexa. And, I mean, it's very nice of Valde to give it another shot, another run around with a new IGL. If it doesn't work, Valde will be off this year. He'll go to a bigger org because he can definitely play in these orgs. I mean, by the way, if you are one of those FaZe fans who fucking hate Rain so much, which blows my mind.
I actually just was thinking Rain would, or FaZe, yeah.
Yeah, just take Valde, replace him for Rain, and then you definitely, if karrigan can't hit number 1 with that, fuck it, time to retire. So, I mean, OG for me, 15th, probably on their best day. That's kind of where they're at for me.
I can't really see them changing too much either, because the thing is also, like, to their credit, I don't see them falling that much. I'll say that it's probably. I would actually say that the slight improvement's going to happen because I actually think Nexa individually is just slightly better than AleksiB. The structure isn't going to at first. The structure is going to catch teams off because anytime there's just a big structure change in a team, it always seems, and like it's kind of akin to when a new opper comes onto a team. He always just farms for the first tournament or two because people don't know what it's like to play against him, and I think that's going to be what it's like. Because people will see OG's name in the server and then they're going to expect a certain style of play to be against them, but it's actually Nexa style instead of AleksiB. So that'll give them a little boost in the beginning, but then I think they'll probably fall off. Like, I actually think that probably within the first 3 months of him being there, they'll peak at number 8th or 9th with a couple surprise victories, but then people will just watch a couple of their demos, and I don't know if they're going to be able to innovate on top of that.
I mean,
Okay.
also free up like Valde to take up some other spots that AleksiB had previously.
Hopefully.
Like you were saying, like connector and outside on nuke, for
I'm going
example.
to do something to give that guy help because right now he is pissing away his career. So.
Yeah. Hopefully they do, because at the very least, for OG's sake, I mean, they could probably sell him for a lot if he boosts his stats a bit more. It's kind of hard to sell him when he has a 1.08 kind of rating as opposed to what he should have, which is probably like a 1.15 in my eyes.
I think one of my favorite No Majors Club moments was when there was like some game where like Valde was just like popping off and like and Richard just started losing his mind over this guy having to play with Yugi on the same team.
Can you even imagine? But yeah, Yugi heard all those criticisms down the years. He fucking hates me. But, listen, I just call him as I say him. It ain't personal. You might be a lovely guy to have a fucking barbecue with, but you fucking suck at CS. So, what do you want me to do about it? Get better, like get good. But yeah, Valde was so good at that period in his career as well. Tragic.
I'm just amazed that Yugi actually announced his retirement from CS in the first place.
Yeah, it's like, go quietly, homie. Read the room. Read the fucking room.
He needed
don't say anything.
One last opportunity.
Can you imagine if you turned up at a fucking house party, right? Shit in your hands. Started clapping, sprayed it all up the walls, and then you went, right, guys, I'm out. See you next time. Fuck off. Just leave.
You shake everybody's hand before you leave that party.
see you next year. Nah, bro, just fuck off. Just go.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
Go.
All right. This is going to be probably the best move. I think we all can agree that this is the best move in all the Rostermania shuffle.
coldzera.
That's right. That's right, Mix. That's absolutely right. coldzera to Double O Nation.
What about coldzera?
Yeah. Okay, so
why did you have to remind me of this, Maui Snake? I totally ejected this from my brain, and I was a better person for it.
We brought Richard for one reason, to absolutely tear this roster apart, and but I'll just give the brief context for anybody who might not know. Right now, what the roster is KNG, TRK, Leo, DRK. Don't call him Drunky. He doesn't like that anymore, by the way. He's actually messaged multiple analyst casters about that. He's trying to separate himself from that. So it's Leo, DRK, VSM, and coldzera. But they are interested in adding Try and MOUZ. It seems like that seems fairly likely from what I'm getting from how 00 Nation spends their money. That they probably
MOUZ
could
tweet out though. I stay.
Yeah, but Automatic tweeted that too, and we know.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I thought there's like I think a lot of people some rumor that like I thought there was like some rumor that like Team One wanted some like outrageous amount of money for MOUZ that like no one was going to be willing to pay.
It's several hundreds of thousands.
Yes, I was about to say.
Yeah, it's a Monacy almost level amount. Almost.
Yes. That's hefty for MOUZ.
Try did announce that he's out of 9Z though, so that part
that one seems more likely.
Very likely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the MOUZ thing is MOUZ is stuck in jail right now, Team 1 jail. Maybe TRK comes to join him. I heard that was actually a possibility also. But either way, I'd kind of rather talk about if I mean, we could take multiple angles on this, I guess, but I personally am more interested in the roster with Try, with MOUZ, because I think that KNG and TRK probably should go. I think that with coldzera, Leo, VSM, Try, and MOUZ, this becomes a lineup that becomes actually pretty interesting pretty quickly in my eyes. But a lot of it hinges on, can coldzera actually be a decent in-game leader, or is he just going to trash talk everybody on his team saying they don't work as hard as him?
Yeah, I think the answer to that is no. I do not expect coldzera to in-game lead very well, personally. I mean, I had a lot more faith in somebody like Taco, but obviously he's stuck with the Godsend guys, and good on him, because he's probably got a brighter future with them, having done all of the rebuilding that he's done. For me, why is... Like, it's like coldzera finds a way to say, hey, if there's any team that speaks like Portuguese, if any player that speaks Portuguese, you guys got to come in, get one in with me, get a couple months playing with me. Say you played with coldzera, the great, or something. I don't know how he keeps getting these opportunities. I thought for sure he was out after this complexity stint. I thought he was out before the complexity stint, in fact, but he keeps coming back.
I mean, listen, so first of all, if ever there's anyone who doesn't have the temperament to be an IGL, you would be fucking hard pushed to find a better example than coldzera in World Counter-Strike. I don't know if you remember, by the way, when he got so fucking ass-pained with how things were going at the end of MIBR, that he basically sent a Fallen Hall of Famer IGL. Like, sure, he's behind on the meta by about 5 fucking years at this point, but whatever. Like, he said, I'm look at me, shit memes, whatever the Zoom is like. I'm the fucking captain now. He legitimately did that. And so Fallen, being Fallen, because despite all the things people say, Gabriel's quite an amicable dude. He basically let him call on some maps. He let him call on the easy ones. He let coldzera call on Mirage, and they were fucking shit. How can you not come up with a game plan for Mirage, you daft cunt? So anyway,
all right, you can call on Dust too. All right,
yeah, exactly.
Long guys, you got long spawns. Let's go.
Yeah, let's get a pick. It's ridiculous. So I think one of the earmarks of like coldzera's personality, like if I had to sum him up in a word, where he is now. Because, by the way, this is an all-time great player. Wasn't he like the first player on HLTV to be like number 1 back-to-back years?
Yes.
This guy was a god, right? And he came from nowhere. If he could have stayed humble, who fucking knows? But whatever. But this is a guy who basically could have been somebody that like really like learned how to put his experience to benefit younger people around him. He's somebody that could like become a student of the game. But nah, he's just, if I had to sum him up in a word, it would be delusional. Mm-hmm. He's not the player he even was. So it's like, what do you add? Meanwhile, by the way, you want to model as someone having like a renaissance later in their career? Taco, there you go. There's somebody that's become a really good in-game leader, that's developing talent, and that team's getting better all of the time, and they've got some really nice tactical aspects to them. coldzera is still living in 2015, 2016. And unfortunately, it hasn't been even close to that for a long time for him. So can he be an IGL? I mean, the sad reality would be that roster needs to sign Try, and I would even go so far as to say, and MOUZ, to be even competitively relevant.
I want to read the quote that Blame F gave in the HLTV top 20 article about him, because I think the headline everybody saw was like coldzera was getting a lot of hate, but he was surprised how good of an attitude came with. But then he says later in that same quote that I don't want to put, this is Blame F, I don't want to put words in coldzera's mouth, but at one point towards the end, I do think he gave up a little bit when he saw the attitude of some players on the team at the major. Bro, that's the guy you're now using to spearhead your team that you're trying to make into a world contender with coldzera. That is the worst. That's just the worst way to go into a roster, to think a guy that just gave up on another expensive project in complexity is gonna be the answer here.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest problem with this team would be like the leadership, because I think the pieces in terms of the individual players, especially if they get MOUZ, does have the firepower to be like a decent Brazilian lineup, but you're not getting like, I would have rather have seen them try and get like Wood7 from MIBR to lead this team, or just
Woody,
like try
Woody.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know whether that was his actual alias or not, but yeah, I think there's just such a lack of Brazilian in-game leaders right now outside of Art, I would say, at a top level, that it's just so hard to piece together a lineup that's going to be able to contend at a top level. Because a lot of these teams now, like if you look at the top 10 teams coming into this year, you have so many teams that have like established tenured IGLs or ones who have really proven themselves. And I think starting off a lineup with coldzera here is just going to be it's just not going to be enough to contend against a lot of these teams, especially if you're bringing a player like Try into a like tier 1 sort of tournament level. It's going to be really hard to sort of established that, I think. Also, quickly to correct myself, it was actually Get Right was the first player to place twice as number 1 HLTV.
My bad, my bad. How
Yeah,
can
yeah.
I forget the great one? Apologies.
I had to correct myself too. I actually entirely forgot. So
Brazil says otherwise, so that's what
Yeah.
Yeah, what about coldzera in 2014?
I know, right? Like it's just sad, dude, because it's like I look at all of the rumors around The Last Dance. I look at the names that are getting like for me, because I wrote articles about this, so there's no hiding my opinion. The what they became from where they started, like you couldn't not love those guys when they first came through in the scene, and when Fallen made those difficult cuts and brought in coldzera, and he was an unknown guy, and they went on a big tear, and they became the number 1 team in the world, and they endured all the cheating allegations and all of the bullshit that was thrown at them, and they did it as a unit, and it was just a really cool story. Being around for that period of time was awesome. Like, I had nothing but admiration for those guys. You just see them all now, and it's like, literally, I didn't even think this could be true. That it would actually be Taco would be the one I have, like, the most respect for. Like, Fallen, all right, it's not his fault Team Liquid didn't work out, but, from what I'm told behind the scenes, he's so off the pace in terms of where the game is at right now. You're talking about karrigan not knowing smoke lineups. Like, I don't even... Fallen thinks he's going to play fucking Cobblestone next week. That's how far behind he is, right? So, I get it. It's not that he's a bad dude. He's just washed, right? But the rest of them... egotistical, narcissistic cunts that only care about extending their careers for the money, no drive. And when I see someone like coldzera saying, I could have joined like 5 other different orgs, why the fuck would you pick 0-0 Nation? Like, why would... And what this tells me is, either he had those options, but he just couldn't be bothered to get his shit together, because that would be the expectation if you played for a real team. Or he actually lied and those options never materialized and this was the best he could get. Either way, that's a travesty for a player of coldzera's pedigree. He'll never be a good IGL. Like, the dude can't even in-game lead himself as a person. Like, how the fuck can he do it for anybody else? So I just think it's sad, like, seeing them all now. I mean, maybe Fur is even sadder, honestly, but... It's just a mess. It's just a mess. I wish they would just full time on it. They've made their millions. Come on, dude.
I'm sure Cold looks forward to it now, but I'm really curious to see what his attitude will be like 6 months in, when maybe things haven't gone exactly as he imagined.
When they're still outside the top 20.
When they're still 0-0 wins.
0-0 prospects, by the way.
0-0 prospects.
I'd like to start a running bet. Can we go a single episode without mentioning 0-0 prospects? Because I think it's too funny. I think it's too funny.
It is the most hilarious academy name of all time. Yeah. And the fact, like, they have to know that. They had to know.
Well, I mean, like, they probably thought, 0-0 talent, that doesn't work. The only thing that works is like 0-0 academy, bro. But like, why wouldn't you just pick that?
Yeah, like, just, you don't, maybe they just don't know if someone has 0 prospects. Maybe it's a linguistic.
I also
believe you can workshop that and nobody goes, hang on, that's actually really bad.
The title of the org itself, 0-0 Nation, what I thought coming into it was that it was supposed to be like a play on a James Bond, reference, like 00 agents. So I thought it was always 00 Nation. I initially pronounced it
00 Nation too, yeah.
Yeah.
It could be.
And
but all of their mass media stuff said 0, like they spelled out 0.
Yeah,
exactly.
They specifically clarified it.
I know. That's why I'm extra confused now by the name.
Someone told me their logo's meant to be a heart.
I don't know. The logo is so weird.
It looks like that, mate. Write your fucking will. It's time to pray. It's ridiculous.
Shout out to these guys for buying my org 2 weeks after I signed with them. So.
The Nordavind one, yeah. I don't know what they're...
Are they actually based in Brazil or any sort of like
no? They're
because I know Nordavind where they are, but I mean
it's still Norway though. It's still Norway.
Yeah, it's Norway. I know
Brazil players have to go to Norway to like boot camp and stuff.
Yeah, I know Pimp films content with them, and then he has to go to Norway to do it. And I don't know. Yeah, it's a really
0-0 reason for them to be called 0-0 prospects.
This must be something. This must mean something in Norwegian that we're just not privy to. I don't know what cultural difference we have. I mean.
At least if Pimp is out there filming content, he's not tweeting outrageously needless, controversial takes about who might be the best player in the world for attention. So You know?
Has he done
Well,
that? I missed it.
Bro, he was like, he did that mad fucking tweet in the middle of a tournament going, you know, in many ways, Nico's better than Sim. I'm like, oh, bro, he just won the major. Stop this. This is attention-seeking behavior. Stop.
It's okay. coldzera will get this team rebranded sometime next year. We're gonna see a tweet where it'll be coldzera family kindly requests that 00 Nation change their team name.
They're specifically just their academy name, nothing else. That's all.
She's gonna be the first one to unfollow the 00 Nation Instagram account, and that's how we're gonna find out that he's departing the roster. I'm calling it now. I'm calling it 6 months in advance. Okay.
You know, there's some good suggestions in the chat. I'm liking that one. 00 motivation.
Yep. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Not bad.
There was 00 Future. That was a good one.
Yeah.
All right. That's if this were a snake and banter, that was definitely the ugly, and somehow we're gonna move to the good now. This is my favorite roster move by far. No questions asked. This is Vitality signing Magisk and Dupree, Zonic, getting rid of Shox, Kyojin, Xtaz. This is just a slam dunk. I mean, the main problem, the obvious problems with Vitality were, I mean, there was one. It was the name Kyojin. I mean, that just needed to change. If this were an ideal world, there would have been probably just a French replacement that could have taken his spot, that would have just done all his stuff better. Maybe some veteran that was good at those kind of anchor position roles. A guy that I really respected and admired, but he has since retired. Yes, I'm talking about RPK, but either way, I think this is basically the best that you could have done. This is so much experience on paper. This is so many major championships between people from both sides of the equation now. There's so many people that are going to contribute what I would think would be winning ideas and philosophies. There's going to be a level of professionalism that they come in with. I don't see how this fails. I actually this is one of those moves that I would put a lot of my analyst career on the line for, saying that this is going to come out the gates as a top 4 team, and they're going to stay a top 4 team for a very lengthy stretch of time.
See, if you had said top 3, I would have pushed back. But yeah, I think top 4 is an easy prediction.
As in, they come top 4 at every tournament, because you can't tell the difference when it's semifinal finishes. At least you can't. I mean, between the other team and the other side of the bracket. So that's why I say top 4.
I need to look at the
They need to be top 2 for sure. I mean,
by expectation, yeah. I would say this team is a disappointment if it doesn't at least get to a few grand finals in Q1. But my problem with it is that my biggest issue and concern is the language barrier, and not just the language barrier of them all speaking English, but also like the fact that the French players are used to communicating in French, but also with Xtaz, who's now departed, with Apeks as the unconditional leader, probably with somebody, I don't even know who would be secondary calling. I'm not sure if other people are aware.
Magisk would probably be the secondary caller.
What I mean is before in the old team, I guess there was probably Shox. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of structural things that have changed about this team. Yeah, imagine. And the fact that, you've dropped Shox, you kept Masuda, who's clearly the better of the 2 younger talents that you have on the team. You dropped Kyojin, finally. And then, you're betting in these Astralis players. I mean, it's really exciting, and it's Funhouse mirror Counter-Strike. Never thought I would see this particular union. Great that it's happening. Very excited to see where they go. I'm not sure that I can count that they'll have everything figured out in time for the first 2-3 months of their tenure together. That's my take, anyway.
I mean, on that note, though, I don't think that's even the expectation for the roster immediately. Like, there was an interview that Prof did with the Vitality CEO, I think it was, and he basically said that it's not they're not aiming for this team to immediately be a top team. Like, they're going to give them time to actually make it there. But even then, I agree with Alex. I think this team will be a very consistent top 4 finish team, even in their first couple of months together. The thing for me is that I think that they can be making grand final appearances in a few months' time, not necessarily immediately, especially with the established rosters still around like Navi and Gambit. But I think I want to say by the time the player break rolls around, they would have made probably 2 to 3 grand finals, if not won a tournament.
I want to clear up the English stuff. I talked to Apeks about this back in November, so obviously the leaks were all true. I mean, he said, this is how he put it for everybody's English, that Masuda is okay. He has, I'm not going to say the specifics, but he has a girlfriend that's not from France. and so he's been speaking English with her for quite some time now. He said that with Vitality, they've all been taking English lessons for a while. I mean, it's clear that Apeks in interviews is very proficient in English, but he also said, this was a joke on his part, but he said ZywOo will need to learn a little bit, but does he even have to speak? So that's little cheeky right there. But ZywOo obviously can speak because he played thousands of FPL games.
It's like the only way I can see this not working out is if like the language was just a complete disaster in the team and just led to no one understanding what's going on.
Oh, come on. You've seen Game of Thrones. You've seen Game of Thrones, mate.
I actually haven't. I never have.
Fuck me. The one guy I could say that to. What an obtuse bastard. Just pretend you have. Do I have to teach you kids how to be fucking sociable?
In my life.
You've seen Game of Thrones, mate.
Obviously, he has seen all of it. He's seen all of it.
We actually my favourite. Play with me. Go on. Right. Anyway, the point being, there will be. I really haven't. Holy fuck! How do you do a podcast with this guy? Right. So anyway, the reality is right. Like Magisk, he wasn't particularly chuffed about losing his IGL spot over in Astralis when he sort of curated it and looked after it while Glaive was away. And if it doesn't work out under Apeks, he's going to want his touches. Oh, and guess what? The boss of the team, Big Daddy Sonic's Danish too, and thinks Magisk can be the IGL. Oh, there's fuckery afoot. Yeah. Not to mention, by the way, if the team does fail after spending all that money on it, right? Like, who do we go for? French dude or a Danish dude? What do you think? I think the Danes will have the upper hand on that one.
The org is French though, isn't it?
Mick.
That's my one concern with all of this is that Vitality if I'm not mistaken, they're backed in some way, shape, or form by the French taxpayer dollars pay for some of their salaries or something in an esports initiative to further international awareness of French culture and stuff like that. So there is a very low likelihood that they just switch to all Danish, but I actually don't know the trajectory of their...
my point was...
I don't know what's their league roster like. Is it French or what? Do we know? Okay, I don't watch.
No, they just signed Erks, who's from the same place that Nico's from.
It's just English. But I was going to say, I just don't understand how this team couldn't improve, because the previous iterations of Vitality, it's been ZywOo, and everyone else is just averaging 1.05 rating, obviously not ratings and everything, but they're obviously all kind of lacking.
Just the level of output needs to be stated.
Magisk alone is already just a huge upgrade over anything else that ZywOo's ever had. And then Dupree also has that potential, even though he's been struggling the last year or so, but I still think he can come back and be better than any other player than ZywOo has also had. So it's just, in my mind, I'm just I don't see how this team doesn't immediately improve just based on that.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it should improve.
Yeah. Not everything improves over time. For example, Game of Thrones, your favorite TV show.
Another one I've never watched that I heard has a bad ending. So
just watch the first 3 seasons, Mix, and then turn it off, and then just turn on Secession, okay, and then you'll get all the jokes. You'll get every joke after that.
Absolutely excellent TV.
Yeah, then just go back after you catch up with that. And watch. By the way,
if I quickly get up to refuel, if I turn my camera off, does it fuck up all your shit, Pronogo?
It does, but that's okay. I'm a professional. I know
what I'm always super worried about is I got them low riding jeans because I'm just sat here all comfy.
There you go.
And I don't want my ass crack.
It's a pretty. It doesn't even capture both of your hands up, so it's a pretty small window here. I think you might be safe.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to risk it.
Okay, you can just turn it off, and it'll mess it up. But
I gotta walk to there, so you will get ass. I think you will get ass. I think there's a chance.
2 minutes.
I don't think Pronogo gets enough ass, so I think this is going to be a.
There it is.
You're doing him a favor, giving him some ass. Okay?
Yeah, true. Someone's got to. Someone's got to. I guess.
Someone's got to take the hit
for the producer. Think of the producer.
Think of the producer for once.
You can have my logo where everyone.
That's fine. You're in my space now. We all swapped
spaces. So. Okay, perfect. I fucked it all up. Right, I'll be right back. You can carry on talking about how Mix is the only guy who's not watched Game of Thrones. It's fucking outrageous.
All the media I consume is professional wrestling. So.
Yeah, dude, it's so fucking outrageous.
I love how this has tilted Richard more than the coldzera move. Actually,
TV show and go fucked just immediately. Outrageous.
I've got a filler topic while Richard is running. We didn't talk about The Last Dance. How could we not talk about The Last Dance?
Oh, The Last Dance. Okay, so that's a rumor. You know, but it seems like they're all hanging out together, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
they're on land
lay it
right
down.
now.
Lay it down.
So it's Fur, FNX, Fallen, Vinny, and what's the last one?
Who is it?
For
Who is
FNX.
it? For
Bolts.
FNX Bolts.
Yeah.
Man, this is kind of we kind of have to acknowledge this is just going to be a walking disaster with no
Absolutely.
accountability. Yeah, like I can't really see any world in which everybody's able to perform at a level that satisfies
was
everybody else.
so bad on 0-0
Yes.
Nation.
Yeah.
Like,
Mate,
I
if
thought
we-
that might be a good move, and he might come in and be really good, you know, in tier 2. But dude, he was so bad. I don't understand.
Oh man, he's not he's just Fur's, I think the whole thing, the cool thing about Fur back in the day was that, you know, Fur just does what Fur wants, but he's still playing the game enough regularly that he can maintain a very high level of form without having to try so hard. But like now, when you take a break for X amount of months from to the top tier of play, you don't have that. so that's what did Fur in my opinion, and because I don't know if he remembers what it took for him to get to the tier 1 space, all that work.
I mean, that, and also like one of the big things for when FNX was cut from the
FNX,
old roster
okay.
was that Fur was mad because FNX wouldn't practice.
Yeah.
Like, and if you think that the one of the whole things with FNX this whole time has been that he's never needed to practice to like compete at a top level, but I don't think that's really viable anymore. Like, you can't really do that and consistently maintain like a spot at the top anymore whatsoever.
I don't think Pronogo, you don't need to try to switch it.
I know. I looked on the screen.
It's all back to what it was before.
Probably should have announced that. Sorry, bro.
No, it's okay.
I just had to go to the garage. I got like a garage full of beer. I keep forgetting to bring stuff up here. I'm really self-conscious because someone made an HLTV thread about me having a mini fridge.
Oh wow!
To my setup.
Oh, really?
I don't get it. Doesn't everybody get one of those from Red Bull?
Well, they said it was something that only a fat, washed-up neckbeard would do, and I was like, Summit has one.
I think literally Summit has one. I'm pretty sure Maniac has a Red Bull one. I'm pretty sure like
I thought it was pretty fly, so I was like, all right, well, I'll just get rid of that.
I actually
no one will ever bully me on the internet again.
I am in a hotel room, but I have a mini fridge right to my left as well, so I guess I'm washed.
Yeah, like, dude, like why? But whatever, you know. I bought like fucking thousands of like cans of beer and just filled the garage up with them. So every time I want a beer, I go to the garage now.
That's because the lorry drivers aren't really making it out to where you are anymore. The shipping shortages are taking their toll.
I feel like you're gonna need alcohol to. I think you'll need alcohol to ever watch The Last Dance play. So
that's
while Pernoga's fixing the overlay, we were just talking about the Last Dance roster.
Bro, I'm so sorry, man. I could have just waited.
You know what's really funny about that is that it was updating on both streams. Like I have the studio mode, obviously, right? But because OBS is super functional, it was actually fucked on the stream, and I didn't know. It was totally fine on mine. I was like moving everything around. I swear to I should have screen recorded this whole thing so I could have shown you guys afterwards. I swear to God, it's not nearly as scuffed as it looked. But
it's not as scuffed as The Last Dance.
Yeah,
just don't have me back. I'm insulting Mix. I'm messing with the producer. You know.
It's okay. I was waiting to. I never got a chance to say it while you were gone to spare myself from your wrath. But I also haven't seen Game of Thrones, so it's okay.
My God, what? But you read every fantasy novel.
You could be one of those fucking extras in it, though, mate. So you know.
Oh my God!
That's true.
If you were like
I take that as
the hound for a chicken, I wouldn't blink twice. So.
I'll take that as a compliment, even though I'm sure there's a lot of really,
I'm saying you're
really
like a medieval warrior.
People.
It's a compliment.
Oh, okay, there you go. Yeah. Well, what's not a compliment is this piece of software that I'm working with. So you guys carry on. It's fine.
Okay.
You want to move past Vitality then?
Yeah. So we're done with Vitality. We're done with the Last Dance. Okay. Well, Rich, what's your take on the Last Dance, and then we'll move on from that. Let's hear it. What's your
Did you cover why the fuck is anyone calling? Who's it the Last Dance for?
As soon as like Fallen and Cold went together, I didn't understand why it was still called The Last Dance. I thought the whole point is that it's Fallen and Cold back together, And then that doesn't happen. So it's like, it's not The Last Dance anymore to me.
These guys are so fucking dumb. It's like they're calling it The Last Dance, and Michael Jordan isn't even there. You mad gun.
Okay, they need to. Okay, this is the thing.
What about who's dancing?
This is just a separate tangential rant, but this is just how things work in the esports space. I've noticed that sometimes a little catchy phrase will be misappropriated for our space, and then it just kind of carries on ad nauseum. Like, why do we call so The Last Dance, for example? Not every roster that's dying needs to be a last dance. Like, this doesn't need to always be used so much. And another thing is that why does it have to always be eras? Can it be dynasties? Like, everything is a dynasty in sports, and suddenly eras just became a thing. I don't know. There's certain phrases that just have always kind of rubbed me just enough the wrong way, but I need to get
I've never thought about that, actually. Dynasties.
It's a dynasty.
Makes so much more sense.
No, I think so. My opinion on that is I think a dynasty is like the ultra shit. Like Astralis is a dynasty if you want to go see it.
Then it should be a dynasty.
Yeah, Astralis is a dynasty because it wasn't an era because they dominated with 2 different lineups for like, fucking 3.5 years or some shit. That's a dynasty. An era is just a period of time. And so when we're in the Na'Vi era now, that people are too precious about era. Era is just like you dominated between.
Era's a little more fleeting.
Yeah, exactly. You know, there was people forget when Dennis was in Fnatic, they had a little era, didn't they, for a bit when they bounced back. Start of 2016, I think.
Yeah, they won like 6 tournaments in a row until Olaf got hurt.
No one even talks about that lineup anymore. So that was an era, but it certainly wasn't a dynasty. So.
Sure.
That's my take on that, but I could be wrong.
I think there's been probably 2 dynasties then, the NIP dynasty and the Astralis dynasty. That's my take on it.
Yeah, maybe. Because, I mean, obviously as well, the Brazilians, unfortunately, are a little bit hamstrung with the fact that it was a couple of different lineups that they did make a change, and they also changed org.
And they weren't dominating between the majors either as much.
Yeah, exactly.
They were winning some
Also
stuff.
true. Also true.
Could I ask about one team that I didn't see on this list? I wanted to know Richard's thoughts on EG and the lineup they're building.
Okay.
What do you think about it, Mix?
I think I think it will be good, but I feel like the ceiling is really low. I feel like it's like a lot of players that have kind of hit their peaks already in the past. There's no like young guy on the team. Like I really like every team having like some like type of like young player. Like on G2 it'll be MOUZ, or Liquid it's like they have OC coming in. But on EG, and this is kind of like I feel kind of Stewie's mindset at times, where he really wants like the experience and people that won't fuck up. And I think that's good. I think I can understand that mindset, but I also think having like a young guy that can just throw the chains off and make some good plays and like kind of build himself up into playing a certain way is like really important to have for a team. So I feel like EG really lacks that. And so transitioning from Valde and not getting him and going to Rush instead, I feel like is like a missed opportunity to grab maybe someone younger and fresher.
Maybe, but like, this is why when people say like, oh, Richard doesn't understand the game, as they do say in the community, it's why I'm here really to gain some, kind of credibility.
Yeah, you got to get on the analytical podcast.
Exactly. Yeah. Now that I'm talking to Maui Snake, all of a sudden, Maui says he does.
Well, Richard watches demos too, I can tell.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, my demo watching... Yeah, I don't watch a lot of demos these days. I watch, but I do watch a lot of Counter-Strike, and if something interests me, I can still be tempted to download a demo. Although all the demos to download at the moment are looking for suspicious match-fixing activity rather than excellent play.
What episode of Game of Thrones does this remind you of, Richard?
Yes, exactly. It's just an episode called Match Fixing Cunts, which is, check it out. But anyway, so EG for me, the community reaction to the Rush pickup was very strange to me because I think people have forgotten where Rush was when he was cut from Complexity. And that was everybody was saying, oh my God, why Rush? He does all this incredible support work for the team. He's integral to their success. He's completely reinvigorated himself, reassimilated himself, and become this incredible support player using all of his veteran smarts because he knows he can't be that lights-out entry fragger he used to be on Optic, etc. So, for me, Rush doesn't surprise me at all. I think Rush can actually do a great job in this team, and I think Stewie's going to love having him as a foil. The question marks around Automatic. He's getting in this team based on nepotism. That's it. Cronyism, technically, as opposed to nepotism. But it's because it's Stewie's boy. That's the only reason. He's been away playing Valorant, not even playing it particularly well, by the way, for like, over a year? A year?
Yeah.
So
I agree with that point.
He walks back into a top-tier org? Nah, fuck that. That's whack. That's whack.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. That like the automatic pickup is more egregious than Rush because they really didn't have anyone to fill those roles. Like you don't want Breeze doing that shit. Automatic's not going to do that. So obviously Rush is like a good name. Just throw in there someone that Stewie trusts, and so it'll really be on like
they could have had Obo instead of automatic. What am I missing here?
Yeah,
well, they had already released Obo before making all those
mistakes.
I guess
I know some of
mistakes.
that. I can't really touch on it though. But I will say, like one thing that I do rate. One thing that I do rate is that at least one promising sign I would say is that automatic is not going to be opping on this roster. I don't know what his form's going to be like when he comes back here, but I'm happy that he's going to be back to rifling and Cirque is going to be opping at the very least because I think automatic was a substantially better rifler than he was an opper, and he brought a lot more to the team back when he wasn't this primary figure on that gun. Like it didn't really make any sense to me. I get that he wanted to switch and then stay on it to sort of develop, but to me, he was just always a way more impactful player on the rifle. So seeing him go back to that here, gives me a little bit of promise in terms of the potential for the roster to sort of grow if he can obviously bring back his old level.
It was such a travesty to see automatic reach top 20 HLTV, 17th in 2018, by the way, and then the year after switch to the op and then just be the most average opper ever. You know, he had some flashes with the op, I'll say that. I think like CS Summit 6, just because I was kind of at it, I saw, you know, and I think Gen G won that on the NA side of things. Like that was like the one time where it was, okay, maybe this can be something at some point. Actually, you know what? DreamHack Anaheim also, he did pretty decently with it too. They won that tournament. But yeah, seeing him back on the rifle, I don't know. I'm actually kind of okay. Maybe it's the like NA bias too. I kind of, some reason, something about automatic reads to me like he can get back to being a Valde-esque like 1.09 rating player. I don't know. I think some reason I just think the motivation will be there. I think something about also people that switch back. So there's only been one true example that is in my eyes that really reaches out to me or stands out to me is that Floppy coming back from Valorant didn't actually have that hard of a time transitioning back. In fact, he looks better now than he did ever in his career.
He didn't even want to be doing it in the first place. I don't think he went all in on Valorant.
So
frankly.
I can't speak for automatic as well as I could speak to Floppy because I've spoken to Floppy a lot, but I have to imagine automatic's coming back because he wasn't all in either. And so if that kind of was always in the back of his mind, if he was always watching the games, which he was, I actually was watching the major with him in a Discord channel for some of it, like then that kind of just maintained interest means that he's probably been wanting to make this move for a while, and I think there's a chance that he actually has stayed a little bit more on top of the meta than we may expect him to have.
His last competitive game was in 2020, and he lost to Envy.
Okay,
way to deflate all of
it's
over.
Glasses off. Okay. Stomp them to pieces. Look, listen, I was at Boston. That's one of my old time. That's a fucking.
My Hallmark glasses are fixed on. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, and that's fair, man. Like, we all got our favorites, but there is absolutely nothing that suggests to me automatic can get back to what he was on Cloud9. And that's, let's be clear, for this team to work, that's basically where he needs to be, right? Who else? Like, we already said, Rush is going to be that supportive element.
Yeah. Stewie's never going to be that, like,
Stewie's never, he's never going to be the smoke criminal ever again.
The worst overall thing.
All their star players all have question marks in terms of
the thing.
Yeah. Automatic.
There's too many variables for this to work immediately.
The worst.
I'm not saying it can't improve, but man, you everything has to go right for this team to even be relevant.
That's exactly it. The worst part about this roster is just simply everybody needs to go back to their old form for this to work, which is just that part has never happened in history. Just look at what happened to Dignitas. This is like, in a way, the poor man's Dignitas reunion for them. I don't think they're going to be as bad. They're not going to be as bad.
Poor man.
Yeah.
No. Look, I want this team to do well, by the way, because first of all, I really like the CEO over at EG. And she's saying all the right things. And I'm also super happy that EG is still in CS at a time when the conventional wisdom is if you're a North American organization, you leave. I really like Stewie as a dude. Like, I mean, you know, I consider him a friend, you know? So
his record speaks for itself.
Yeah, so I want Stewie to succeed. But I'm going to tell you this, if he thinks he is entering into a problem-free zone with this roster compared to what he had at Team Liquid. He's out of his mind. That's the thing that worries me. I think Stewie might have become too obsessed with trying to prove himself as an IGL and be successful, that he is, again, those rose-tinted glasses that you have for automatic is going to be amazing. Stewie's got those on. He thinks Breezy and Cirque are like upgrades on what you had in Liquid and they're never going to make any mistakes. He mustn't have watched EG play at all for the last 6 months of 2021, if he believes that. And then, do you think Rush is doing all the supportive work? Do you think he's going to take being talked to? Like when Stewie fucking mad dogged Fallen live on a stream?
That was painful.
If you're willing to talk to somebody like somebody of Fallen's pedigree, who you supposedly are cool with and you're friends with, if you're willing to do that to someone on a live fucking broadcast, dude, there's no limits to the shit Stewie's going to say to these players. And let me tell you, they ain't got the heart for that. They will. These types of players that have already had issues, that have already coming out of the Stanislaw era where they're completely demoralized. They need the carrot, not the stick. And Stewie, he's got a carrot, but it's also just an orange stick. That's how he works. He's not developed his person skills yet to be a great IGL. So I worry about it. There's too much. There's too much.
One thing that is weird, and this is something I know that would affect me, is that like all the EG players have kind of posted Instagram stories about where they are, and Stewie even said that he's moving to Europe. So if they're making this a full-time European project, I think they've moved to Poland. I wish they would have just moved to a better area. Like, this is not to shit talk Poland, but like,
listen, Thorin, listen, Thorin.
Podcasts where people have done that before and it didn't involve them.
I'm just saying, move to somewhere where there's a little bit less culture shock in Europe. This could be even parts of Germany. This could be parts of like England or something like that. Like, if you ease the transition for some of these guys, I think the atmosphere and mood would be a lot better. And if they're all making like 20K monthly or some crap like that, like, is it really that much more that they're saving? Are they going to make that much more, like, save money by being in Poland than somewhere like England? Or I thought, how the EG thing is in the Netherlands or something. Like, why not go somewhere where there's just a little bit easier to assimilate or to integrate with the culture you're about to move into. I just think that's something that I know. When I moved to Oklahoma for a team house, I was in a bad mood because I was in Oklahoma, and I've been
in Poland and Oklahoma.
Yeah, I don't think Poland is Oklahoma, but I also don't think that that's the best option for a place.
I've been going to Poland for years, primarily for the purposes of either watching football or drinking, occasionally both at the same time. And let me tell you, the thing that would worry me about sending a team of young dudes to, like, fucking, I don't know, Krakow or something, is that it's going to be incredibly hard to keep them focused because it's a hell of a city. So I need to know exactly where in Poland they were. But honestly, now, the reality is,
Sir put it on his story, Warsaw. He put on his story, Warsaw. He put another fantastic city. Not known for partying as much as Krakow, but the reality is you can just hop on a fucking train and be there in a couple of hours or some shit. So anyway, the Eastern Europe and Poland and the Balkan regions, they're having this like emergence right now because of all the COVID protocols, as being these hubs for esports. Also, as well, the countries that have like got huge infrastructure development going on right now. Like, I'll wager, by the way, you will get better internet in Warsaw than you will in probably on like the West Coast. Yeah,
of America, for real. So, I mean, I think if you're going to decamp to Europe, Poland's central, lots of infrastructure. I mean, when you consider that nobody even batted an eyelid at like Serbia being the hub.
Yeah, that was weird. I thought that was strange.
I mean, Mix, you were out there, right? You were out in Serbia.
No, I wasn't, but I know Seppa and Ricky were out there, and they did not enjoy Serbia. So
I don't know if their city.
Again, I've been going to Belgrade for years, and I fucking love it. So I mean, I guess for younger people, it just living abroad can be a bummer anyway, as we talked about with Munazi. But it's just like a slightly older team, and obviously Stewie and Automatic are pals, and I think they pretty much know each other pretty well.
Yeah, so even Breeze and Cirque are like really good friends.
Nice the worry for me would be they start treating it like a fucking holiday. Honestly,
okay.
Whether or not there's a culture shock.
It's
Okay.
surprising
It's
to
just
hear.
there's so much that has to align for this team to be like
Yeah.
actually a top level team. That's the thing. Like all of the paradigms need to be perfect, and all the vibes need to be right. You know.
Okay, so I see where you're going with this. Okay. All right, Nifty.
Naturally.
That was nifty of you. Yeah, got it.
It's very nifty. I'm very surprised that I'm hearing that young players don't like going to Serbia of all places, because I know that the best boot camp in Serbia is run by Relog Media, who don't even have the fucking gusto to decide to record content with the
He
people.
didn't bring up his old nemesis.
I had to. I couldn't miss the opportunity. No, it's just it always shocked me that there was zero content, even though they literally owned the hotel that the players were staying in. Like, come on, guys.
No
I'll be going
retreat,
there.
no surrender.
I'll be going there in about a week for an event I can't name, but you could literally just look at Wikipedia. But
You
I'll
can't
see.
name it
I'll be the
because
judge of
it's
it.
too embarrassing to say that those three words back to back. Sorry.
Let's see. We'll see how it is. I'll be the judge of it. Okay, let's move on to the next roster move. Let's move on to the next one. We've got another one that I think we're all fans of here, and that is FURIA getting safe. Yep, that is pronounced safe, not saffee. He has said so himself. So I don't know why he added an extra F and an E, but probably to salute Dignitas female. No, I don't know why. I honestly don't know why he did that. That was a bad joke, actually. So let's just move on from that one. I don't know why it's spelled like that. But yeah, safe is on the roster now.
I'm drinking the beers, and Maui's the one getting loose lipped. Keep going, sir. Poland Dignitas female. Yes. I'll take.
That was probably your weirdest pull.
Is over, Maui.
That was a weird joke.
There's a lot of channeling of Thorin in this show, Maui. I mean, first Poland, then you hate women.
What's
even
next?
FE? Are you esports? Are you esports?
We're all part of esports, guys.
Next
That's
thing
why
I
we're
know,
all
Mouse
here.
calling me a cuck. Jesus.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just get back on track here.
Look about you though. Like,
let's get back on track. Furia safe. Yeah.
True.
Cool. Yeah. Anybody, save me from myself.
I think this move
Safe.
is like a year overdue in terms of like seeing FURIA make this move last year would have been great. Obviously they couldn't because there's like Payne was playing super hardball with this buyout. But obviously I think that this move, like, there's no possible way that FURIA got worse with this, I think. Just in terms of how well Safe was playing this last year, the sort of style that he brings to the team seems almost exactly what they're missing in terms of having a consistent opper behind their plays. Is he going to be a one-to-one Henny replacement? Not necessarily, but he's going to have enough impact behind the players where it has to elevate FURIA, especially with how ridiculously well quesadilla was playing this last year. Like, given the form of the whole team overall, just going through his stats when I was doing the top 20 article for him, he had a fantastic year in terms of his form. Like, even if you watched his demos for some of these matches, even the ones where he didn't play very well in terms of the numbers he put up, his form in the matches was really, really good. And so as long as he brings that sort of level to the team still, and you have Safe backing up Art with his consistent plays, I think that this team is going to be back to, like, I don't want to say, just with some of the other rosters, it's hard to say like a top 5, but definitely a consistent like top 8 team, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for me, where I see FURIA with this roster move, which by the way I absolutely fucking love, and I'm so glad because I was mega worried when I saw Henny and Lucas again on the whole like Henny just gets his backpack ready and just puts Lucas in. Right, don't worry, I'll get us another job. I was worried they were going to go back and Lucas was going to sort of come in and they were going to fuck with the team, and that would have been a travesty. For me. So the first thing is, because Safe is actually like 27. I didn't realize that at the time when I first saw him at playing in the Brazil League. I didn't realize he was as old. By the way, I've been wrong before. I said 27. It's no time to get good and no time to get a call up to the bigs when I was talking about Jax, and I was completely fucking wrong on that one. So I'm never, ever doubting a 27-year-old ever again. But, it has to be now, or there isn't time realistically for him to get another opportunity. And with what team would it be? So Safe comes into FURIA. And I agree. I think not only is he just great in and of itself, but he allows the team to go back to what it used to be, which was, you've got Art as the primary AWPer now, which means you lose him as that ridiculous, weird lurk, push everywhere, get up in your face, he's behind you, just nightmare to deal with. One of the wild card aspects that made FURIA so difficult to play against, and they've lost that. And they haven't had that there for a while now. And obviously, Art's tried to do it still. But as the primary AWPer, it's too much to give up when it fails. And it's really hurt FURIA in a lot of games. So it gives them their shape back. It gives them their tactics back. And I think it just gives them an almost unprecedented amount of firepower. This is probably the best Brazilian lineup you've had since the MIBR glory days, in my opinion, with the addition of Safe. And I think this will mean that out of the top 5 teams that I don't think they can consistently belong in, they are going to take scalps. They are going to be spoilers. They might be 7th or 8th, but as I said, them and Virtus Pro, they're going to be the gatekeepers of 2022. FURIA and Virtus Pro, they're going to decide whether you win a tournament. They're going to decide how deep you go in a tournament because they've got fantastic rosters that just unfortunately exist in a time where there's 5 other incredible better rosters. But I agree. I can't see FURIA getting worse off this. I think it'll instantly click. It was a no-brainer move, and I'm super glad FURIA made it.
Yeah,
this team is going to give.
Just broke Alex's heart, by the way, adding VP to that list.
They're going to be the gatekeeper, as in I would say. I'm going to agree with Rich in that I think they'll be 9th a lot of the year, 9th, 7th through 9th, and they're just going to keep that sort of position. I don't see them ascending, but yeah, I want to hear what Mix says.
I was going to say that FURIA will definitely take scalps because not only do they have a ton of fragging power between Yuri, Quesarado, and Safe now. That's like a deadly trio of stars. That's really good. But now you have Art, and Art just makes FURIA impossible to actually fully prepare for because you just can't ever predict what timings he's taking, what smokes he's just gonna sit in and just wait to fade through. He's so much better doing that with a rifle, and you have so much more versatility and freedom to do that with a rifle. And I think it just feels more comfortable calling around it. So you have this deadly trio of stars. You have Drop, who's a really solid anchor. He's just kind of filling the roles, doing what he needs to do. And then you have Art, just a wild card, just holding W, just doing all kinds of stuff. And that just makes for maybe even a team like Na'Vi that, really likes to prepare for teams and anti-strat them. It makes it really hard to do that. You have to consistently be able to predict what Art's trying to do. What is he going to try to exploit? And doing that consistently is just so difficult because he's just such a different player compared to anyone else in the scene.
Yeah.
It's a shame he turned out to be a cunt. Because I've never had any beef with any of the FURIA guys. I always thought I've been pretty cool with them down the years. I've always said I wish more people in Brazil would kind of support that team over some of the other guys. And then when all that fucking shit popped off in Valorant with the, did a commentator say, be terrified? Spoiler, yes, he did. I accurately translated it. He basically rocked up and just said a tweet out of nowhere saying, I've been a CS player for ages, and I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, Richard Lewis is xenophobic towards Brazilians. I'm the motherfucker that probably he's I always wanted to go. I just can't now because you'll kill me. So, I definitely.
That's a quote.
I grew up. I support Newcastle United because we signed Mirandini in 1989. So it's sad. I've been deprived.
You're one of the only talent in the higher tiers of the space that God sent. No one cares about this team. No one even cares about them.
I called them the most improved team in World Counter-Strike. Yeah. What have I got to do?
The problem is, Rich, you say that, and then they say, yeah, but what about coldzera? And they come out with all their fucking things, the whole Rolodex, they hit the button. What about all these other Brazilian players?
If it makes it so one day I can come to Brazil, I will be willing to sacrifice the last of my hair to give Taco a really good hair transplant.
There it is.
That's it. He'll never need to wear a hat again if that will just put me in the good books with Brazil. I'll be willing.
Sacrifice that has to be made.
That is specifically because he is Brazilian. So,
I will permanently mold for the rest of time if you just will let me back into your good graces. I like Brazil.
There you go. I'm really interested about FURIA because, if we're going to get back on track, I kind of want to set the stage that this whole last year, during the online period, this is going to sound weird because they made top 8 at the major, but I think this was a write-off, man. I think FURIA is so far from where they really ought to have been, despite the fact that they did have that roster change. They had the junior experiment, and they came in with drop, and it's like, obviously, I think they had their coach stand in for a little while, and surprisingly, they were a contender at one of those.
He's going to make it to the top 10,
teams.
HLTV top 10, Gary.
Yeah, there you go. So, I mean, just by stats, just look at him. But the thing is, like, you've gone through this whole thing watching this team, and I just want to see Art back in T spawn or CT spawn 12 seconds in. I want to see him doing crazy stuff and unpredictable things. I don't want to take away from Safe as a player, but the fact that he is signed to this roster just makes me excited to see Art again. That's what I'm interested in. I want to see him back in action. I think Safe is money, and you almost don't even need to care about him because he's just going to deliver. I have confidence in his, power and his ability as a player. But I'm really looking forward to seeing Art back in the driver's seat where he belongs, doing crazy stuff and setting the pace against teams, making it so that it's really hard for anybody else to compete with him. And that's what I think is the most important aspect of this move for me. It has much less to do with like, oh, do they have a star opera now? Yeah, I think they do, but they also have Art back. And the fact that he wasn't really able to play to his role for the entirety of what felt like the entirety of the last year. Man, what a write-off. I'm glad FURIA is back, and I hope that they deliver upon it, because that's the expectation now. Be the gatekeepers.
One part of the move that we didn't really touch on was the fact that Vinny is out and Drop is sort of like replacing him in that sense as well. Just to mention it.
I think Drop's better than Vinny. Drop's better than Vinny. That's my hot take.
I think it's a good move to make at this time. I think it's like at some point you need to like change out one of the core four. I think kind of gives them a bit of a fresh start.
I think it wasn't Vinny the guy who'd been on the roster the longest out of all the guys that were left.
Yeah, he did half of his 5-year contract.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's pretty wild.
Drop farmed the RMR in North America. Like he was better than the Godsend players. He was better than a lot of those other rosters at the time. It was really
flirtation with Honda look ridiculous in retrospect if you had him on the academy team the whole time.
Seriously, yeah. Drop is just legitimately better. He's way better than Honda. I'd say he's better than Vinny. Yep. The only thing that is that playing the style that FURIA are going to play now that they have a dedicated opera that isn't named Art anymore is the only thing that I don't know. Is he going to be up to speed immediately? No, obviously not. Playing 4v5 that many times is pretty difficult. And, FURIA had the best 4v5 stat in the world for the duration of that Henny roster. So that's something that Drop's going to have to learn, But I think once he does, he's going to be better than Vinny. I think that's just something that comes with a little bit of experience and them talking about the procedures and protocols that come with Art's inevitable death in some of the rounds that he plays. All right. I want to talk about this one roster that personally, I'm not too hype on this one. I'll just put that out there. But it's like people are talking about it. It's interesting. It's kind of on paper one that I didn't really have any idea where some of these players would be heading. But that's going to be the new Apeks roster, and that is Nock,
Vitality,
Jacob,
wrong
Seiko, Seiko, Chazi, and Asilian. And I want to ask you guys where let's just do this. Let's do the fun prediction of the week is going to be, where does this team end up in 3 months from now? So in April, let's do this. 420 blaze it. What time or what position in the world do you guys think this roster is actually going to be at?
Like number
20th for me.
64th. What do you say, Richard?
I think they can get 20th. I think
20th. Wow. Okay.
I think it's going to be. Okay, actually, I
want to hear everybody's predictions.
I was going to say like around 21, I want to say.
Wow. Okay, Pronogo, where you doing
that thing? What's that fucking game show where it's like
the price is right?
Yeah.
I'm going to say 20.99.
You have to trap him now. You have to say 19 even if you don't think it, just so you fuck Richard with our spacing on this. Yeah.
Oh, I have to say 19?
No, you don't have to. What do you really think? What do you think it's going to be?
I honestly checked out of these players a long time, so I will say 19 just for the bit. I honestly I don't know any. I haven't watched any of these guys. I know FPX has a lot of fans somehow, at least on HLTV, probably because of demographics. But man, like,
I'll go higher. I'll just go higher. I'm going to say like 29th or 3rd. I'll say this mixed to be a little bit more closer to. I'll say this to be closer to you. I'll be like 37th. I'll be 37th.
Yeah, this team is not going to break into the top 30. Yeah, I'm telling you, this team just reminds me of like the Nordevent team I was on. It's like such like a mismatch of players climbing up the ladder, but climbing up the ladder in tier 2, tier 3 EU like this is really fucking difficult, especially with a team that's like has like 5 different players. Yeah. And I think I think like by like month 6 of this team, Asilion will be out because that's just kind of how it goes with him. It seems his entire
If you
career.
look at his track
I think
record.
I mean, if I was this team, I would instantly take out Asilion and try to get MSL in there, and I would try to build around him instead.
I mean, don't be wrong. Like, no disrespect to Asilion, I think that would be an upgrade.
Yes.
MSL's not going to play with players he doesn't already rate.
I do think he rates like Knock, and I think he rates people like Knock and Jacob. So this is someone that
this Chawsey kid's.
I don't know much
His
about him.
stats
honestly.
are good, but I haven't seen any of him.
Well, so he played in. Oh fuck! I was watching it over December.
He beat Eternal Fire twice. I saw that. He topped it. But yeah, that's like that's a rating that I like put high on my like. I don't put much stock in.
But no, he he played and it was like a qualifier, and the games I watched. I saw the Eternal Fire wins, but it was the defeats against Double Pony. Yeah, that to me. I think playing in a losing team, like playing in a match where you lose, but still having a good performance and like having the maturity to still be doing what you need to be doing and not getting sucked into the scoreboard ideology. This is a 16-year-old kid, and he looked like one of the best players on the server. And this was against guys like obviously Body playing for Double Pony and Twist. Was playing for fucking Savage.
Finest,
or whatever
it looks like, or Savage, my bad.
Yeah, and they got that Pleasant guy as well. Remember when he was touted to be like the next breakout? So for me, like at 16, shows a lot of maturity, a lot of fragging, a lot of good aim. Definitely got that raw potential. This is why I think I think they've got a very good blend. I'm not getting ahead of myself. I don't think, by the way, 20th is like some outrageous prediction when if you go and look at the top 20 rankings now, Ecstatic, who the fuck are these guys?
Those are my homies, dude. 20th. I casted them at least 3 times, and I've casted at least 3 games. So that that.
Here's the fucked up thing. I know Wolfie from North America. There's a 28-year-old player called Bird from
the homie, dude. Bird from Sky next major. You heard it here first.
Thomas Du Fredrickson.
What is happening?
From Sky.
Dude, he's got a lot of strats.
I actually I don't know what I see more of on the HLTV sidebar, Semler threads or Bird from Sky threads. Like they pop up pretty similarly.
He hasn't had above a 1 HLTV rating at any point in his career. Who is this dude? He's 28.
He's literally the new age Hunden. That is what he is.
Yeah.
So that's in their 20th right now.
No, it is
20th.
And keep in mind, they play in a lot of like the smaller European leagues, like the Snow Sweet Snows and the I don't even know, like the Fun Sparks and whatnot. So it's definitely possible for a team like this to rise to a 20th or so spot over time. But to your point, Rich, like I think this team definitely will. I don't want to say live and die by Chawsey, but he's definitely going to be the main factor in terms of how far they can make it up this ranking, regardless of like an IGL change. Like if MSL comes in 6 months or something, then they could incrementally improve over time. But if Chawsey isn't like a superstar hitter for them, then they're never going to make it to that point. I don't think.
Nork, Jacob, and Sticko, that is a good call.
Mm-hmm. My main question for this team is just going to be like how Asilion kind of like meshes with everyone else, because I feel like that's been a problem throughout his career. Is that it seems like oftentimes like he either gets frustrated with teams or people get frustrated with him, and it doesn't really work out. So that's the main question for me in this team is Asilion and how he'll do as an IGO.
So this is a point that actually Yumi brought up just now in the chat, and I just recognized this, that Chawsey has 1,200 op kills in the last 6 months. It's his primary weapon, and Knock is also on this roster.
Knock is opping. Knock? They've basically confirmed
so Knock is
already.
opping, and Chawsey,
is he really?
Chawsey's rifling, and Chawsey's rifling, and yet that was his main thing that he was fragging on. Like he had a 1.14 rating opping for the last 6 months, and now he's going to be rifling. So
I mean, he'll be secondary op, obviously, and maybe they'll swap it depending on confidence. But who the fuck? Like that's not going to get you to the next level.
That's a big concern.
I think
actually,
that change alone should probably dock everybody's prediction points. To be honest,
no, I don't think that's as mind blowing. Like these little Zoomer kids these days, man. Like, trust me, that motherfucker can rifle as well. And by the way, had to in the Double Pony game because they were under the cosh for most of the 2 series they played him in. He had a rifle in his hands in those games, probably as much as he ever got to touch the AWP, and still top fragged for his team. So Nah. I mean,
okay, he might be a good rifler, Rich.
I ain't worried.
My question is, like, we don't really know what Knock has been up to since he got transposed by device, right? So, like, I haven't seen this guy play in a long time. The fact that they're giving it to him already, I know you don't want to necessarily big up the ego of the 16-year-old player, but I don't know, man. Like, it feels weird and out of whack, and like maybe
like Knock is the unluckiest motherfucker in CS in most recent times. Well, that along with anyone who had the misfortune to work with Hunden.
Yeah,
but Knock basically like did nothing wrong. He came into the office one day and Nip said, "We're dropping you," and he went, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "This is the best player on the team, maybe the second best player," and he went, "Yeah, but we're signing device though," and he just had to suck it up. And then he missed out on Fnatic because they actually did go with Smooya. I'm very happy with that. And then there's just nowhere else for him to go. It's not like he did anything wrong. So I'm not vibing with the idea that like Nork shouldn't get the AWP. He absolutely should. He's got the pedigree, he's got the tenure, and also, by the way, if you look at Chawsy's rifling stats, and I bet if you compared them to Nork's, I know who I would rather give a rifle. Put it that way. Okay. So listen, again, no craziness, no psychopathic predictions. I'm not saying they're going to go top 10, they'll surprise everyone. And then, besides, they're taking it seriously. They're in a boot camp right now. Yep. I thought Jacob was in good form when he came out of Extremum. I like him. I think they are going to be in that top 20 for sure.
Okay. Right. Let's move on to something else, some other rosters. We only have a couple left, and then we'll get into all the patron questions and a couple sub questions. Don't want to take too long on this. Let's so these rosters are kind of connected in a way. Let's do this complexity roster. So the rumored complexity roster, I don't have it in front of me, but I think I got it off the top of my head. We got Junior, we got JT, we got Floppy, we got Grim, and we have Fang. So this is a roster that obviously gets all four of us excited because we're NA. We're just NA stands. We're always going to ride die.
Writing about them almost every day for the past however many fucking years. So yeah,
I'm so much of a homer for these guys, like even more than you. So
yeah, I know you.
Yeah. If you think I'm hardcore standing for these
you don't even know.
You should see this.
I'm just a fan of Jason Lake, so I hope it works. That's my take.
That's cool. Fair. That's cool. Okay, let's try to not. Do we want to say this? Is this team going to be better than Apeks?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll say yeah. Richard doesn't look too convinced though.
Ooh.
I mean, honestly, I think this team could be better than EG.
The thing is, I'll just say this: like, I think they're going to be higher ranked than Apeks, simply because
they won't be better than EG.
They're part of the partner. They're part of the partner teams for Blast and for ESL, so they're going to have more opportunities to get BO3 wins over higher ranked teams. So I think just flat out they're going to have a higher rank.
They're going to have a higher rank, but I'm thinking about it more in a legit sense. So let's do every HLTV fan's favorite thing, and we'll take the players by themselves and go back to back. So Asilian versus the in-game leader of Complexity, right? Who do we think is better? I think that's pretty easy to see. Yeah, well, thank you, Mix. No bias.
I would pick most of the Complexity players to win all of these, except for I don't know. Maybe most. Maybe Knock. No, I think Knock might be better than
Entertain Madness.
I think Knock is better, actually.
Anybody, by the way, who thinks Junior can even hold a candle to Knock is deranged.
Yeah, I think Knock's better.
Deranged.
Actually.
You didn't watch Europeans yet, so you couldn't possibly
or you didn't watch
believe
Junior,
that.
One or the other. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Right. Junior and FURIA, everyone gives him a pass because of the language thing. Unfortunately, he's never going to cut it at tier 1, guys. I hate to say it. He's a lovely guy. He's a super nice dude.
He's great hair.
He's clean cut. Oh, his hair's amazing. So fucking envious.
Like Jacquinho and him.
Junior, when you eventually get around to watching this, the only reason I'm hating on, just tell yourself this, it's not true, but tell yourself this, I'm hating on you because I'm old and I'm bald and I'm fat, whatever, right? Because I like him, I don't want to hurt his feelings. Reality is he's just never going to be good enough. Never, not from now until the end of time. He doesn't have that in-game, I don't know what it is, it's the mental block where he can't take over a game. I saw it too many times in FURIA, and he said it's because people were shouting at me in Portuguese. When in actual fact, the entire team was changing to English to accommodate him, and he still couldn't get his shit together. You're putting a case of what when Yuri, what more do you want?
I'll challenge you on that, and I'll say that I do think he has that capability to take over games in an environment he's more comfortable with, because I've seen him do it back in like Triumph against good teams, like 100 Thieves at the time that were actually still playing well. I really think like the environment will be big for him. I wouldn't say he's like better than Knock or anything at the moment, but like the potential I saw from him, especially on the CT sides, I think the T sides might be a bit rough for him. That's like gonna be like JT's main thing that like he's gonna have to figure out is how exactly to get him comfortable and integrated. But I do think Junior, like if he's comfortable and if they can play it up to him and build that confidence in him, I think he can take over a CT side with his aggressiveness. I do think he has that in him if he can build that up. And I think it's a good environment for him because I've seen them do the same thing with OC. You know, back when OC first joined these guys, he was so passive. Like I'm talking like 10% entry percentage, like just flashing, not doing anything. And then over time, they built him up to be more aggressive on CT side, be more confident, take the picks he wants to pick, and that's how he's grown into the player he is now. So I do have faith that like Junior in this environment with this team can grow into that if he has it in him to kind of build on that.
So then we go JT and Asilian.
Yeah, I'm kind of checked out of.
I think Asilian's better. I think Asilian's better as a player, actually, but I think that JT might be actually slightly better calling today. But I don't know if that's actually.
We haven't seen Asilian in a while, have we?
Yeah,
my read on that is basically that's a tie.
Okay, that's a tie.
I'd say that like Asilian has more fragging, and then JT, I think at this point might be better at calling, but I couldn't really say because I had been on Asilian. And also, I would say I think JT has like a much easier personality to work with than Asilian does.
Okay, let's do this then. Jacob versus Fang. I actually think Jacob should be better.
Jacob has more experience, but
you see how you fucked yourself with a stupid game that you're playing right now? Like I think
I'll pick Floppy over Seiko though. I'll pick Floppy and Grim over. I'll pick the last two NA players.
Would make these two teams absolutely negligible, and if you know anything, you don't bet on the new fucking roster that's been thrown together in NA. You never bet on them against the.
But they have ESL partnership and they have Blast.
All I'm gonna say is the last roster.
Because they're gonna beat 1BO3 and that's it. That's all they need.
All right, fair enough.
Here's what I will say: I expect Fang to be one of the breakout stars of this year. I really like that kid.
Great attitude.
That's the difference maker. Like when he did that interview, and again, by the way, Munazi, pay attention. When he did that interview, and he just said like, I don't want to settle on being like the best in NA. I want to shoot and try and be one of the best in the world. He didn't call anybody out or denigrate anybody else. He just put it on himself. That's like how you do it. That's how you handle it. So, I mean, for me, at 19. This kid really can do it, and I want him to. I'm willing him to win. But the problem you've got there is like right now, if you're asking me who would I rather have on a roster, who would I rather take into a game, I am gonna say Jacob in that one.
Yeah, Jacob's already grown into that really aggressive like type player, and that's what Fang needs to be. But Fang is still getting there. Like Fang doesn't have the confidence, I think, to consistently do that round after round.
Year from now, but
yeah. That's something that I think could reasonably change, like if Fang actually grows into the player he can be. And he's like keeping all his roles, I'm pretty sure, in the team. They'll like do what they can to make sure he stays comfortable. But he still needs to grow and understand that like, you know, he needs to stay aggressive, even if it's like not working at times. You know, he needs that because that aggressiveness is what really makes him unique and what really helps him stand out as a player. And that's when he's truly a star, when he's tapping into that. And that's something that Jacob has like already learned at this point.
So who do we compare Floppy to?
It's either Stiko, and I think Floppy's better than Stiko, actually.
Yeah, or
Chazzy.
Floppy, hard to rate.
Floppy's better than both. Yeah, so he wins.
Okay.
Right.
Well, Grim and Floppy versus Stiko Chazzy. I'd take the NA duo, actually.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. That's where we get tied up. Which, by the way, that is without knowing what Chazzy's ceiling is and not knowing where Stiko is currently in his level because he's been out of Tier 1 CS for a while. So I don't think it's cut and dry by any stretch of the imagination.
It'll
and
definitely...
I think it's a huge gamble for complexity, frankly.
Yeah, there's a couple question marks here. So this roster has a lot of potential if they figure it all out and the pieces mesh. But they are changing up a few roles, which is that Floppy is now going back to a similar role that he had on the Colossus, which, you know, obviously he struggled on that team, but I would argue that's more the environment of kind of the team than it was like him just... It was more just him being unhappy than it was like him just not playing good.
Yeah,
but obviously
he was a coach, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You know, how can... Poor Ricky. But with Ricky, it's like... But I think he can play pretty much any role if he's comfortable with the team he's in. And so I think he'll be pretty much fine playing like those like lurker roles. He's gonna play bitch roles, and he's fine with that. Like he enjoys those. He thinks they're easy. And then so the big question mark would be with Grim, because they can't exactly like slot Grim back into like every single star role. They can't just say, do that, go crazy, because they already have Fang, and they need to keep him in some of his roles as well. So with Grim, it'll be more of like he'll have to play probably some spots that are even like similar to Liquid. Probably not like all the bitch roles and stuff, but he'll be playing like more like secondary lurk roles on like T side. And so they're gonna have to learn to help him play those in a way much more confidently than he did on Liquid. Like for them, it's not gonna help them if Grim is just sitting back doing nothing and just holding space. Like if they want to make actual use of Grim, they need to make him comfortable and confident to just, go prod like B bomb site by himself and see if he can try to find the anchor or something. Just keep people on their toes with like his insane mechanics that he has, and actually use him effectively. Make sure he's not scared to do these things, and make sure that he's feeling confident and comfortable within the team. And so between like Grim kind of like having to fit into these roles and then Floppy with new roles, these are like a couple question marks that if it doesn't work out, then the team's roles could get really messy really fast.
I do have faith in JT to piece that together pretty well, though. I don't think it's really like they might have some early struggles in terms of trying to figure things out, but I think over time they'll adapt that relatively well. I do think my favorite part about this discussion is how we went into it, prefacing that we're hardcore NA fans, and then when we said that this team would be able to be above Apeks, Richard truly understood what we meant.
Listen, what I will say is, given Complexity's positioning and their expectations and where they've been recently compared to Apeks, if these motherfuckers aren't in the top 20, that's like a huge fail.
Oh, yeah.
So these guys are definitely under pressure. But I like what Complexity are doing. They're going back to supporting the region. Sure, it's cost effective. They might even just be spinning the wheels to see where we're at in 2023. But yeah, I like this roster. I definitely want it to succeed, but it is definitely not cut and dry. There are question marks on this. I've never been a fan of JT as an IGL, so that's my little hang up.
I can understand that. He used to be very, very exec heavy, low fragger. I think he's really improved in the past year, but he still has to consistently prove that against.
Yeah, he did have that like throwback kind of feel. Yeah,
we'll see if they can prove it.
One guy though that's got point. I want to make one point.
One last one,
which is
in the middle of a segue. Now we insert a segue. But there is one guy, and then you've got to make one point.
Yeah, I have to make one point. Yes. So listen. You said earlier, Rich, that you got to consider you're picking NA over EU. I'm just going to say that my very objective and not selective memory is telling me that the last EU team that was assembled ad hoc out of nowhere was Gorillas, and I don't think that worked out too well.
Well, it's going to be fine now that they got rid of Flusher.
Speaking of Flusha, one guy that it's got to prove himself.
Perfect.
Daps. The Daps lineup. This is one that, we don't have to go too long on this one. I don't think, a lot of people are not probably all too interested in it, but we know a lot of the players on it. The rumored right now Daps lineup is Daps. It was going to be Rush, but he's not part of this anymore. So it's B-Wills, Minus, Swisher, and I can't remember. Infinite. So this is a lineup right now that I personally like a lot because Minus was on the last team I played on. Minus was on it, and I basically told him, whatever. I don't care if my other teammates hear this at this point. I said, Minus, you're going to be the one that makes it. You're going to be the one that probably makes it from all of us right now. You're clearly you're like working harder than everybody. You have a lot of skill. You have the right mindset. It was just a confidence thing for him, but he's a young player. And I really think that, and I've worked with him a good amount since then, and he's changed his game from a rifler that was already really good to an opper that's very good by NA Premier standards. So I really do rate him highly. Daps rated him highly. Elige put him on his like bold prediction player thing. I really think that he's going to be something. He could be talked about in the same breath as maybe OC in a couple years or a year and a half. Like I think he does have the work ethic to make that happen. Actually, so the other thing, this lineup is a little curious though because I really liked it a lot more when it had Rush because I thought that would have provided a lot of veteran leadership. He would have known what to do in all the support positions if he needed to play those. And I also think Rush just kind of raises a team's floor a lot. Whereas now it kind of is a team with 4 question marks because they are 4 young players. People do like not Vendetta. the hell am I saying? Infinite. People do like Infinite, and that he can be a really good player, but there's the mentality side to that equation that has always plagued him. And I think right now, though, that this daps lineup, I think it's supposed to be on Extra Salt. I think that's where it's rumored to be headed. And I
would be just based on what, so like this rumor like came out that was like Extra Salt's building like a new lineup around daps, but I'm pretty sure what it is more is that daps is building a lineup, and then like they like maybe talk to Extra Salt. But I would, just from what I know about Extra Salt, I would genuinely be very surprised if like they stayed in the scene and actually picked up this team. I feel like there's like,
I think that like this fits what they're doing. That they're getting some players. They just sold a lot of players. They're going to sell a lot of players to Complexity. If they are going for that sort of route, isn't a daps team the perfect one to build a farm team off of, where you can build some up and coming talent, sell their players?
Was just from like what I know, I just feel like they were like burning, like losing so much money compared to like what they can make out of esports. I don't know. They didn't really seem willing to spend money.
That's what you have to do.
The last few months.
People don't realize, like, if you ain't willing to lose for 3 to 5 years, then don't fucking play the game.
And I don't think they are willing to do that at this point. Now that those guys are gone, so
again,
I feel like
how much money are we talking about with this particular lineup? I mean, you know, I can't imagine it being.
It's not going to be that expensive beyond daps.
Yeah, too cost heavy. Well,
I don't even think daps would ask for that as much.
Daps, as we know, he's my favorite cuckold in the whole fucking scene. And, you know, I long for the day he turns evil and fights back, but it won't be today. Daps is the kind of guy who probably took like a massive fucking pay cut when we probably could have long dicked EG and like froze them out and got paid out or something after he signed over there. Probably could have got some lawyers involved, you know, didn't. And this is where I want somebody like daps, developing young talent.
Yes.
This is his forte. This is what he does. This is why I will always rate this guy. And listen, Swisher, by the way, with all the shit we're talking about, we're fanging that. Swisher's also there.
Swisher was also one of my teammates on one of my last teams also. Really good mindset. Always like was willing to learn nades, go over things, like was the guy that's staying after practice there before it to come with ideas. Like he's in the same vein as Minus, that they have both very good work ethic. I
can't speak to Minus so much, but I have watched Swisher a lot because obviously Bad News Bears, all of that stuff. I've followed them, especially back when it was PTR, my old, you know, roommate essentially, when I was living out in Vegas. For a time, and I followed that team. So like I like what they're trying to do here, and I think it'll be cost effective. And I'll probably wager daps took like a massive pay cut just to do this because he just loves being involved in esports. But yeah, I mean, listen, I don't have any particularly high expectations for this, but I am excited to see what daps can do to develop young, exciting prospects in the region, because look, it's not ancient history. He discovered a bunch of people who people didn't know who they were. People were accusing them of being cheats, right? And he turned that team into NRG and then parlayed that into being sold to evil geniuses.
I still think that like even if like Extra Salt doesn't pick this team up, this is still like a great pickup for, you know, whatever org. I feel like it's not like
maybe Choco Check, eh?
Choco Check.
Oh my God.
Oh. Choco Check almost should have had a spot in the ESL conference, you know, until
ESL
still
could. It still could.
Yeah, ESL conference might actually get Choco Check.
Can we get some explanation note? Because I've seen stories of this. I saw what happened when they literally forfeited the grand final or whatever it was. Like, what is going on? I thought the North America clownery was behind us, but I was wrong.
You would think,
but
right?
Didn't that shit used to just get you permanently banned from ESEA if you dodged like a LAN final or whatever the fuck?
Yeah, so did Match once upon a time, Rich. But, you know,
any decision like that for ESEA now gets filtered up to ESL, and ESL has like the final rule on that for those sort of situations.
And German bureaucracy thinking, so they're worried about getting sued.
That's really
So there's like a lot of the time hands are tied in that sort of situation. Unfortunately,
it's a rather Kafka-esque situation there with any rulings in the ESL space nowadays.
Yeah,
more like Choco check the bank account. Am I right, guys?
Oh my.
It's okay.
I'm so done talking about that team. I'm not even tweeting about them anymore. It's just absolutely
nearly got rid of them all.
Mm-hmm.
Nearly,
almost.
Sure.
Yeah, just to. I would say I agree with Richard's sort of perspective on this in the sense of like, I don't think this team will have what it takes to compete in like the top level of CS, but I am really happy to see daps come and help bring up another level of talent, because For North America, that's one of the things that's really been missing in terms of having leadership go down to like the lower echelons and help bring up a lot of these players. I actually have an article I'm sort of planning on writing on this, but a lot of it is the fact that every time you have talent in North America who are in-game leaders and have the potential to bring up players, they either retire or they just go to a different game, or they decide that, oh no, I can only compete on a top team. I'm not going to help the lower level players, essentially. Maybe not outwardly saying it like that, but that is sort of the gist that comes across, because none of these experienced players really step down to this level and help bring this, like, funnel up talent. And I'm glad that daps is actually sort of doing that and bringing up players like Minus, helping Infinite get more experience. Like, this is only a net benefit for North America, regardless of what the end results are for the team.
Let's
and
go
I think
daps.
People trying to clown on that don't really understand that this is an overall good thing for us, regardless of what this team's results end up being.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. That's a great way to sum the whole portion up. I think we can get into Patreon questions, actually. Let's do it. Actually, wait. I usually do this. Let's do the question of the week. I want to start filtering in, though, the sub questions. So if you're a subscriber, just if you have a question, it could be about anything, just type it in the chat. We will get to those questions at the end of it, but you're being let know now that we're going to take the higher priority. The most we're going to take is 5. So people that are higher sub, like, timings or whatever, if you've been a sub for a longer time, we're going to prioritize your questions, and then it's just who's the first person. So let's do the question of the week while that's out of the way now. So the question of the week, usually a more open-ended question that can have any answer, and it's just fun to debate, usually, is something I come up with. This week is going to be, you have to change a top 5 HLTV ranked team. Which one, and what do you do to it? So I'll start, just so that everybody else can maybe prepare their answers. Obviously, this is working with the newer rosters. So with G2, this is with the AleksiB Monacy thing, not what you see currently on the HLTV page. So I would just say this. I would actually change out. I would probably actually mess up Heroic a little bit. I actually think that right now they're probably, and it's probably kind of easy to pick the 5th place team here, but I think that right now there's been a little bit of stagnation. I think that there's kind of they're in a position where it's just like they kind of seem to hit a ceiling sometimes that shouldn't be there in terms of their, especially like high pressure game performances. And so what I would really want for this team is for them to somehow just have a different emotional state to their gameplay. And this is kind of like, it's kind of hard to like really put this into a single player, but I actually think this team ceiling is dictated too much by karrigan. I actually think that right now the roster move I would make would probably be to remove him. I would probably just make this is so hypothetical. That's why it's the question of the week. It can be open ended. I would probably take out karrigan. I would try to make someone like refrezh the IGL, because I think some reason everything he's done is peg me as being pretty good at it. And then I would just bring in someone new that like a Nico Dawes kind of figure. I would try to do something different about their opping, because I think karrigan has too frequently let me down in high pressure games where I thought Heroic should have done better, and he's not the one that delivers them a victory, or he misses some crucial shots. And I really think that he's kind of, his performance individually is holding them back. And as an opera, I don't think that's actually, I don't think it's acceptable when you're really trying to be the best in the world.
You can knock out 2 birds, 1 stone, and get rid of karrigan and add Glaive as the primary opera in IGL, obviously.
No, I can't. I couldn't do that. If I did I would swap 2 things,
Here's my move. All right. Mally just gave me a great idea, and this is perfect. You're right. They are dictated by karrigan's ceiling, right? So they need someone that's achieved the top of the mountain, the MVP, the big event win. That's why you got to take out karrigan as your opper and in-game leader. And you got to bring in MSL back on the op, back to calling, leading Heroic into the new age.
I actually don't even. By the way, I don't even hate that. I'm not joking.
For the top 5 team in the world, you don't hate it?
Okay. Listen. I think the problem with Heroic, honestly, is I think they've been essentially like. Don't get me wrong. I understand karrigan is a hype man. He's very intelligent, very smart. They don't have a top tier AWPer while he plays, though. Their best series wins. His fragging is absent from the equation. And that's fine, because it's an IGL. Maybe you're not expected. An IGL AWPer, I don't know if you can go missing. Like, I think about their games they had against, like, Na'Vi recently and how much of a difference it could have made if they had, like, either a really super unbelievable tactical mastermind. I rate MSL a better IGL than Cadian, or a lights out AWPer and somebody else IGLing, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I actually don't hate that move, unironically.
Yeah, it'd definitely be a downgrade in terms of like the pure opping, in my opinion, still. But I think just in terms of like the calling, it would help the other four, like, because you have 4 sick riflers, like they are all so good.
They are.
That like if MSL leading them, if they really bought into that,
it would be the other guy you
good.
could cut from that roster and make it better. You would probably say TeZZZ, right?
Yeah, probably.
To cut somebody else? Yeah, it can't be Stown. Shush plays too important of a role. refrezh is unique in his positions too. Yeah, probably TeZZZ then. The most kind of standard but very good rifler for that team.
Yeah, it still hurts to cut him, but he would be the obvious pick.
Yeah. Okay, Pronogo and Note, do you guys have a different take other than a heroic swap?
Yes. Yeah, I got
Okay, what would yours be? No, what's yours?
I mean, if you can make one move on any team, I'm going to take AleksiB out of G2 and give them glaive.
Okay, well...
I mean, if you can... That is your question here. If you can make one move on any team, if you don't think that is a move that would make G2 clearly, like, number one team in the world over Na'Vi over the next year, I think that's something that could actually establish them as a top team. So,
okay, in a fair world, on your take on the question, that's a fun answer. That's an answer that actually does work. I mean, I don't think that actually even. I actually don't think that is a 100% guarantee they're going to be better than Na'Vi, though. I actually think that Na'Vi, I guess the heroic move doesn't also make them 100% better than Na'Vi, but that would be a good way to make them consistent contenders. Because I think glaive is actually.
There's really not a lot of, because you said top 5.
Yeah,
like, there's really.
Well, I purposely didn't put number 6 because we would change a shitload of things about NIP.
I'll tell you a good one. Virtus Pro, drop Jame, pick up Deco.
Deco?
Yeah. DEKO from 1 win.
1 win.
Dude, that's Flamey's new team. You can't do him dirty like that. Wait, I'm surprised you picked Deco instead of Elliot.
This kid has done nothing in his career to deserve playing with Flamey.
Okay.
So I'll tell you that for free. Like that kid is fucking sick. He can rifle. He's like he AWPs a lot. He's like a primary AWPer, I guess. Can do it all really. And Jame is a bum. And is definitely the one thing stopping Virtus Pro being a top 5 team.
Okay, when Jame might get HLTV top 10, what will you do then, Richard? Because it might be happening.
I'll never have to worry about that.
You just don't. You just don't have to care.
Listen, look, here's the problem. Like I said, you know what? It really occurred to me at the major. I saw all the memes about like James saves and blah blah blah, and like obviously, and it makes sense within the meta to do it. There were literal times when he was basically being dropped an AWP and then just electing to do absolutely nothing with it, and then you're ecoing the next round anyway. Like, take a fucking chance, for fuck's sake. Like, you occupy too much space. You're the guy calling as well. It's like, nah, he really pissed me off at the major because, like, Virtus Pro was a lot of our dark horse picks. I really like that team. The flip move really surprised me with how well it took. And now, unironically, Jame is the problem in that roster. And when you think about how good they are, when you think about guys like Yakindar and how fucking sick these dudes are, I want to see them winning tournaments in 2022. Like, no bullshit.
I'd like to see something happen with James. Because I still remember back in Flashpoint 2 when he was he sealed the fate of Cloud9, if you guys remember. He was the one that kicked them out on Overpass. Might have even gone to overtime, in fact, but he was the one who iced them out there. And he was doing these ridiculous 1 versus 3 clutches coming from the CT side. Like, that really had no business happening. And this is a case where he's not saving. He could have saved. You would even say the numbers disadvantage and the positional disadvantage. Why doesn't he save? And he still went in and he did the job. Like, that was in my mind, I thought at that point, if we travel back to that point, I'm thinking, oh, there's no way Jame time is even a meme anymore. He's actually gone through it. But I guess you regress to the mean, don't you?
Yeah. Well, of course, because, by the way, online, his stats were mega. This is another reason. I can't fuck with all these people that, like, your stats are mega online, and then you get to, like, the biggest LAN of your career, and your balls go inside you again. You know, like, what the fuck's happened? Like, nah. I mean, Rez did that. I'll give him a pass, right? But, like, James, it's unconscionable with the talent around him. When you think, by the way, there was no pressure on James. Nobody was expecting, like, a mega performance from him. Just do what you've been doing. Be that consistent dude. When you've got the AWP in your hand, go get your touches, go get your kills. All the pressure was on you, Kindar. Yes. Everyone was saying this guy will not play like he does online at a LAN. If anything, he was better. So... and you've added Flit over Sanji, so you now actually have a functional fifth player, not just somebody who you make drop the AWP for James. At this point, you've got to say, like, James, brother, you've got to raise your game, and he was really bad. His drop in form.
Oh yeah, James was a big disappointment at the major. I will say there was a lot of key moments and rounds where he could have won, and it was like even 1v1 sometimes, and he has the AWP, and he actually should have. It felt to me like he had the winning position, and then he just misses the shot. Like that did happen. That did happen. I'm not erasing that from my brain.
I'm gonna tell you, Maui, if you get a chance, right? Because I'm a little bit surprised he's not more on your guys' radar. If you get a chance to do like some demo review content or whatever, pick out some of the games this Deco kid has played. He is fucking insane. I am not joking. Like. Okay. Oh, he's not Munazy maybe insane, but he's the next in line.
Okay.
That's how good he is. Go watch one of his demos, man. He will pass the eye test immediately. It's fucking crazy how good he is.
It's crazy how good all of the different Russian oppers are, to be honest. You know, I think Waterfalls is another one that I might be remembering the name.
Yeah, but like...
Deco's on another level, you're thinking?
Yeah.
That's just an opium fever dream. Yeah, Deco's on... Deco is fucking mustard, like legit. Okay. Needs to be on a better team. It's just, unfortunately, what are your options if you're in that region? It's Gambit. He can't replace Shiro. Sure. Right? Trust me, I wanted to say that, but I thought everyone will think I'm fucking 4 sheets in a window or whatever. You know? But
well, you're in good company on the Shiro stuff. Most people here did not put Shiro as...
It can't be Na'Vi. Yeah. So where does he go? Yeah. So it would have to be Virtus Pro. And I'm telling you, if they could overcome the issue with who would be the IGL, which, by the way, they've got personnel on the roster.
Kickert's done it.
Exactly, right? So you make kick at the IGL, you drop James, you bring in Deco, Virtus Pro are top 5 or beyond. No joke.
Okay. Pronogo, what's your roster?
So like Note, I would also change something in G2, but it's mostly, I mean, I actually think that this G2 lineup will be really, really good. However, I would look at, I mean, like the cheeky one. Well, okay, I'll save that in case Mix picked it because I guess it's kind of obvious now that I think about it. All right, Mix so the G2 one for me is if AleksiB had brought in Valde for Amanek, because I know there might be some concern about role overlap, but I think Valde is an adaptable enough player. Like he's just really cerebral. Every time I hear him talk, he's got like, he understands his role to a level that like similar to an analyst does, but he still puts up the numbers. That for me would make me think that this guy can gel in a top team when especially if you say, okay, Valde, you were previously the guy I trusted to give me the numbers no matter what. Now you don't have to do that because we've got Nico and we've got Munazy. If you are actually telling me that Valde is the 3rd star on a team, dude, come on. So that would be even more money than Amanek. No shade to him. I'm thinking of Jax, not Amanek. Whoever's left over from the French remnants. Yeah. No shade to either of those guys, but like Valde would, I think, improve that team.
Okay. All right. I think we can start getting into some of the questions. So the first thing we have is Patreon questions. Those take precedent, and do you have them pulled up?
I certainly do. Yeah. The first one is on screen now. It's from Adam.
The Adam one? Yep. Okay, the Adam one is, considering how they seem underutilized in their previous rosters, how should Grim and Junior be used in the new complexity to best complement their skill set? I'm just going to give this to Mix.
Well, I mean, it's what I kind of touched on earlier, right? So with Grim, you have to, he's going to be in similar roles to Liquid, but obviously you can still give him more priority in those roles. And it's not entirely the same on CT side, so he'll get more of like spots that he actually likes. And so it's just a matter of, he's had like a rough stint in Liquid. I'm sure his confidence has taken like a big shot. Just being in the team environment, not really putting up great results or great stats. So you just need to give him a green light. Like, not just give him a green light, but encourage him to keep being aggressive, like keep going for certain peaks, especially at the start. Like, you need to like really ingrain this in him that like, you want him to be fighting and like using his skills to better the team. Like you don't want him just sitting back. You want him being confident, taking fights, just getting that sort of mindset into him. And it's a similar thing with Junior, just on CT side, just making sure he's confident going for these picks, because it's very important, especially for their CT sides. Like going all the way back, our CT sides, like the old roster, were generally pretty bad. And so it often relied on OC being super impactful in the early round to get opening picks, just make the other team just feel uncomfortable. And I think they have a lot of pieces to do that on CT side. Floppy's pretty similar in that he'll just dry peek anything. If you can get Grim, playing well, he can just be a turret or, doing aggressive things. Fang, obviously you want him to be aggressive, maybe along with Junior. So just activating him on CT side, and then with T side, it'll just be JT figuring out where Junior will best slot in, maybe getting him some set plays on T side so that he has some things he can do, some picks that he knows he can go for and plays around that, and just, getting him comfortable in the defaults and whatever he has to do.
Okay. I think that's pretty adequately covered. What's the next question you got?
We got Axel up next. We'll do alphabetical.
Okay, Axel's is, who do you guys think will be the next person to be picked up by a top 10 team from the We Play Academy League teams? I think this one's pretty obvious. I think it's Exertion. I think the guy's just the best player on MOUZ NXT right now. He's I'll say this. One guy that has come up in this season that looks incredible is karrigan. Karrigan is on the Spirit Academy right now. The thing is, that's just kind of unfair because he was on the actual Spirit roster before, and then they moved him down to the Spirit Academy team, and he's just still banging heads. He's definitely the best. Pimp put it like this, that he's the most informed player right now. I think right now he's just dominating the online stage. Do you guys have any other real heads up there?
I'll shout out the Warlock himself.
No, Laddick's not going to make it. I'm sorry.
The problem is you did say the question says top 10 team, and I don't know if MOUZ are top 10, homie. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay. The next person to be picked up by a top 10 team. Okay, that does put a interesting caveat.
I don't actually know if any top 10 teams make roster moves, specifically pulling from the academy, though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I would agree.
I'm not going to.
There's no cutoff point on when the move happens.
Yeah, okay.
Into the question. So.
Okay, so. Yeah, let Laddick ferment a little bit, and he'll get a little funkier, and then we'll see him maybe on a top 10 team eventually.
And then when Simple gets bought out airlifted out by Ocelot, by Carlos, we'll finally he'll need some replacements. So.
Actually, you know what? Since it has to be a top 10 team, and Device is going to leave, Fuzi's just going to be on NIP. There, that's it. We
already saw that. So there you go.
That's the answer. Yeah. That's the answer right there. To be.
Exertion, however you say it, and JDC look like legit players.
They are.
I thought obviously Torsi 2 stood out.
Yes.
That MOUZ NXT team were like really, really good. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, I would love to be the We Play with you guys, because like it looks like a fucking great tournament, a great vibe, some super cool shit like happening there and stuff. So it must be awesome to see these kids play. What about Head Trick from?
Headtrick again, yeah. Headtrick definitely was one of the standouts for this season. Actually, I mean, the group stage just ended today, and he was just dominant, consistent. So as a rifler, yeah, he's up there, top 5 for me for sure. I don't think I have to worry too much about this top 10 thing. I'll just say, I mean, the best players were karrigan, Headtrick, I'd say, and then the MOUZ NXT guys, JDC, Exertion. I think there was a couple people that we kind of thought in the beginning we're gonna pop up a little more, like this Delusion guy that I got on VP Prodigy, but he kind of fell off in the last couple games that they had. I think when the pressure got on, he just really didn't have it anymore. I think that's kind of it for me. I mean, all the Young Ninjas players could also be argued for that they might have a role in the future.
Obviously, he looked better on NIP, I think, than he did comparatively on Young Ninjas, I think.
Yeah. Okay, that's an astute point. I mean, Fuzi looked like on Young Ninjas. I mean, on Young Ninjas, he's had some games that just weren't very impactful at all, and it had to be like a Rolf and Sapek bailout kind of game. And Rolf and Sapek, I mean, Rolf's kind of like the small sight, hard anchor positions, and Sapek kind of has like a little more freedom as a rifler, I'd say. And those guys are pretty good too. I mean, there's honestly just like everybody on that team could potentially make the jump eventually. I think Rolf's the furthest from that right now, but Fuzi isn't too far. Sapek is actually kind of a name that people maybe should think about too in the future. And ZTR, I mean, that's just a proven solid Swedish IGL actually, and he's young, so I mean, he has a lot of room to develop too. I unfortunately can't really pick anyone from Fnatic Rising, even though I wanted to before. Oh shit! You know what? Actually, Aqua's gonna make it too. Aqua's probably one of the best German talents out there right now. So that's on Big Omen Academy. That guy is actually just really insane, and he seems like he can fit a multitude of
I
roles.
saw them get absolutely wrecked by Na'Vi.
Oh, that was really sad.
That was fucking brutal, dude.
That was really sad. Yeah, they were supposed to win that for sure, but then they still made it to the land.
Yeah, no, but I mean, make a fucking fight of it. Like that was crazy. That was like a complete capitulation.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. All right. I think we covered that question well enough. Let's do this. Let's do first socks. Next question. Or that's the one you have, or is that the one you have, or what? Sorry, let me see the order. Okay? Bill next. Bill next. Do you think the way the current economy works, Valve change from 2019, makes it harder for a team to be dominant? For example, a lot of people are saying Na'Vi are nowhere near the dominance of 2018 Astrals because Astrals won their games by a wide margin score-wise, but Na'Vi often barely win their games. Anyone want to take this?
Yeah, from a game design perspective, the fact that the current economy is band-aided and bandaged, like basically Valve have worked backwards instead of finding an elegant solution. This is something that really irks me specifically because I pay attention to this sort of thing. But I don't know. I think it's way more factors feed into it than people initially think, because a lot of that, we're still calling it the new economy, which I think is kind of funny because it was like years and years ago now. But that economy system came in, and then after that, we had Vertigo come into the map pool, and only recently has the meta started to switch more into that CT dominant meta, which now teams are slowly figuring out how to get T rounds again, which is always going to happen because I think fundamentally, especially with the economy in its current state, if you can get a couple of frags, even losing the round, even if you don't plant the bomb on the T side, you can still end up having competitive buys against CTs who will never have the same amount of money to match unless they live with at least 3 people alive, because then 2 people couldn't drop guns. And even then, you might not have that money for ops at a lot of the rounds. So that's probably the biggest issue, is that when you have T-sided maps or maps that favor T-sides, slow play, fast play, whatever, that's stuff like on Vertigo where it's always going to lead to some really wonky things. And that's setting aside the fact that Vertigo is a terrible map and should be removed. And then if you look at beyond that, I think the biggest question there is like, what does Valve do to change it? Or does Valve even think it's a problem? Because they seem to have decided to go the route of just buffing the A1S, right? And changing up the CT side economy that way. I don't know how long that stays around in the game, but as long as it does, the teams are sort of in the sides are sort of in a balance. But it's in a balance that I think is actually not really that fun to watch when everybody's saving a lot, which has been the trend so far. So as far as whether or not it makes it harder for a team to be dominant, I don't think so, because they can just play to the strengths of the meta. And I think that's what you've been seeing most recently. I think the reason why Na'Vi hasn't been dominant is more to do with Na'Vi and less to do with the economy. But that's my take.
I don't even know if I accept the premise that Na'Vi haven't been as dominant.
Well, the question...
It might be like a round differential.
Yeah, the question was basically how Na'Vi does in 16 for the enemy or whatever. If that's what you consider dominant, then Na'Vi haven't.
At the major, right, the highest level of competition for the whole year in a LAN environment, how many times did their opponents get to double figures against them?
I think it was only twice. It would have been the OT match with
3.
G2. Okay, maybe it was 3.
No. Actually, because it's more than that, right? But it's still not crazy. They battered Gambit. They didn't get any.
They didn't get the double digits.
They battered VP. They didn't do it. They battered NIP. They didn't do it. Heroic did it in a best of 1. Obviously, the final, and then Vitality.
I feel like Navi's been pretty dominant in a lot of the games.
What even is the metric of dominance? Like
a team that I felt like actually had close games while dominating the scene was like 2019 Liquid, who would frequently have like super close games and then squeeze them out. I feel like in comparison, Na'Vi is usually winning their games like a pretty fair margin.
Keep in mind, by the way, that run that we're talking about there, where you play the likes of Vitality, Heroic, Gambit, Nip, that was basically the 4
2,
teams
3,
below
4, 5. Yeah. It's the hardest road.
I'm not accepting the premise that Na'Vi aren't as dominant at all. It seemed to me, actually, that basically when they don't play those teams, they absolutely abuse them. They did that regularly in the ESL Pro League season, from what I can recall. think they only dropped maps against Big.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I don't know what. I don't think the. I agree. I think there's too many variables to even kind of accurately assess it. Not to mention, by the way, I also think there's a bit of recency bias and just bias in general. Seems to be that when Astralis wins 16-14, everyone goes, wow, that's that champion's mindset. If Na'Vi wins 16-14, fucking hell, these guys are so lucky. You know what I mean?
So close. They made it so tough on them.
Yeah. They made it so. They threw so many rounds. It's like, guys.
Yeah, I guess the framing is the biggest difference here, because it was always like, wow, big ups to the team that took 14 rounds off of Astralis. That's crazy. I'm really impressed with them. But then again, Snavi, it's more like, I can't believe they almost lost to these guys. So I'll
just try to answer Bill's question really simply. That he says, I mean, the first part of it, do you think the way the economy works, it makes it harder for a team to be dominant? I'd say yes, because teams have more chances at gun rounds now. So there's not that landslide of rounds where it's like you win that one pivotal round that reset your opponent when you were up 7-1 already. Then you win that 8th round after they got their first. Now they're just reset again. Yeah, that leads to greater landslides in those kinds of games. But just as similarly, you could get reset. But I think the games are a little closer now than they were. And they're closer and they're longer than they were 4 years ago. So that's that. I'm going to move to the next question. EasyPete has one that's, is there a case for Kassad over XTAZ as the coach of G2? Perhaps his stock was down because of how that project went. I was confused at hearing about the Emmy rumors when he was available. I think XTAZ...
I think XTAZ is a perfect fit. I don't think Kassad would be a good fit with like Nico, AleksiB already there. Because I know from like my experience with like Kassad on like the C9, when he was still the coach, was that he likes to like add his own stuff a lot. Like in the game, he likes to have like he likes his style, like how he wants to play CS actually integrated into the team. He's like very active in server time, like adding strats, defaults, maybe stuff like that. And that's probably not really what G2 need from a coach. Obviously, I'm sure Kassad has a lot of other skills, but I just feel like XTAZ is a much better fit for what the team is than Kassad would be.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I think XTAZ is just a more well-rounded coach in terms of what he's going to bring to this specific lineup.
You just go on achievements for this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, look, I'm a big fan of Kassad. I think he's definitely a top-tier coach, one of the best out there. But if you're offering me an opportunity for my super team, my big Gambit, to go and win majors, if you're telling me the coach I can have is XTAZ, who's took 2 iterations of Vitality to being tournament-winning sides, did it with Kyojin. By the way, if you ever want to see how bad it can be, Munazi, when expectations... Everyone in France was saying Kyojin was like some unbelievable prodigy, cruelly held back by his...
I was sold on XTAZ the moment like Alex suddenly left and he had to make Apeks his AGL and they didn't miss a step.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Bro, like, I mean, seriously, like, all the love in the world to Apeks, known in many years, that's XTAZ's W, 100%. So... if you give me a choice of him or the guy that managed Renegades forever, just real talk. Like,
right.
give me XTAZ.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. XTAZ is the
Agreed.
superior coach here. Yeah. Let's do the next one. We got Fursock. Okay, so now we're getting to Fursock's one. Do you think anyone on the Extra Salt roster has the potential to be considered a top 20 player in the world in 2022? Not necessarily one of the top 20 players overall at the end of the year, but just good enough to where at some point in 2022 we could point at them and say, yeah, that's so. He's saying like at any point in time, are they a top 20 player? Not necessarily HLTV top 20.
Yeah, not that fast.
I don't think.
Yeah, I also don't know which Extra Salt he's
unfortunately.
talking about. Is the problem?
It's like
it's too soon.
The top 100 players in the world got COVID or something. Yeah.
I love that team.
Mad amounts of variables. What the fuck is that guy on about?
I guess what you would need to do is you'd have to say, assuming it's the new Extra Salt, and this is even a rumored Extra Salt roster, which would be the one that has like daps and like you could say minus.
No. Say the new complexity one.
The complexity one.
Say the complexity one.
Is it?
I would be more inclined to believe he means the complexity one, not the minus.
Okay, if that's the case, then it would be like you could have to say have to say like Grim or Fang or something like that, right? So I mean,
it would have to be Grim. I think Grim is the only player right now I can see making it there, but even then, I don't know if you can do it in 2022.
I could see Floppy doing it. I'm not even kidding. I do think
Floppy's possible too. Yeah.
I think it's got to be those two for me, personally. I think there's going to be moments where at a tournament they pop off, and I think like Grim or Floppy will have like a 1.22 rating that got him to the first stage of the playoffs, and people will be like, "Oh, that was really impressive." So
top 20 player at the tournament, at least.
But then they lose in the first round of the playoffs, and then we just see that stat. You know,
I'd be more inclined to lean towards Floppy on that one because I just think Grim is going to have so much psychological damage coming out of his time in Liquid. Like,
he has trauma. Yeah,
dude, like, do you remember when they signed him? He was like a nerdy kid with glasses, and then he finished it. He's like, he looks older than me.
He grew a beard.
He's a werewolf, dude. Yeah.
He grew a beard.
He did that. Fuck that. So yeah, it's going to take him a year just to get his mind right.
Yeah, there's like definitely some therapy or something that could help, but you know, esports psychologist might be actually preferable to an assistant coach actually for this team. Okay, so next one we got Spruce Moose. We got which lower tier team makes the jump to tier 1 this year? My bet is on Ecstatic. I think Spruce Moose just wanted to make this. He just wanted to make this prediction public.
Grow up.
What lower
my
tier
homework glasses are on, and I am saying complexity. The new roster.
That's a bold prediction mix. All right, let's all do it so we can. Okay, Pronogo, who's your low tier?
My bold pick for a low tier team.
Is that Richards?
Yeah, just because of Flamey. Come on, man.
No, because of Deco.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, big one. No, I'll say. I'll just say Apeks, dude. They're a pretty good roster. I like them.
Sure.
I think to answer it seriously, keep an eye on Movistar Riders, the Spanish guys.
Okay.
They impressed at the major for sure. I mean, the thing is, like, I guess everybody already rates Entropic as tier 1, but if they don't, that would be my serious answer. I feel like they kind of already, you know, they almost made it to top 8.
I think Entropic are tier 1. I think they're going to slide down to the tail end of tier 1. I think, you know.
Yeah.
But
would you guys say that Godsent is tier 1 right now? Because if not, I think they could do it.
I wouldn't say they're tier 1. Well,
yeah, I think they could make the
jump. They're
like
tier 1.5 for me. I don't know.
Yeah,
so close. I don't know.
Yeah, they're really close. They're borderline.
Mine's big.
So
mine's big then. Mine's big.
For me, it's either Godsent. If they are already tier 1, then I'm going to say complexity.
Mine's big because I guess they're not. Because Godsent is a higher ranking than big, so I'm gonna go big. Okay.
Yeah, well, they just got your boy, didn't they?
My man Faven.
Faven. I never know.
Favela. Yeah.
Don't say that. That's 3 strikes now.
Come to Brazil.
You've insulted Poland. You made a joke about female Counter-Strike. You said the word.
I don't know. I mean, I might walk in one and they'll just think I'm Brazilian, so it's fine. Honestly, I'm a chameleon in these kind of environments.
I wish Richard was here in the Launders episode when Maui Snake intro was like.
It's okay. We don't need to bring that back up. Let's get into the okay. So we got 5 sub questions that we got the subs that were longest subbed first, and then we just took the first one. So if you were tied, that's what it is. And this is all sorted by Pronogo. So if we got it wrong, you got to blame him.
So I just grabbed questions. I didn't do any sorting. So.
No, I don't think we had that many. I think
this is all we had. So
this is pretty much what we had.
If we missed it, sorry.
I do know that UuberPK is a long-time sub, so we're going to go with his question first. Question, and it's actually only for Richard. Question: what is in Richard's future? He was talking retirement / authoring a book.
I'm gonna do both of those things in the future. I have to retire at some point. Yeah, esports just isn't fun like anymore. I don't know if you new kids feel that way already. Maybe not.
No, I love it.
Yeah, cool. I used to be like that.
I went through a lot of burnout.
Yeah. I mean, like, but to be fair, Mix has just been absolutely wrecked. So he's been on the same trade as me. Yeah. No to seen too much. He's like, and Pronogo, like, he's only here to get grid, isn't he? Like grid esports.
He's out for grid all the time.
I would like them to leave the ecosystem. That's
there you go. So
I still get paid a day rate, so I like it.
Yeah,
I still like it when I get to go to top tier events.
Yeah.
So I don't know, dude. Like, it just fucking sucks now. And as you get older, you know, like, I don't want to go on some big fucking speech, but you know, you end up you get shit taken away from you, and you end up having to think like, with the time I got left, what do I want to do? And so, I'm not. I can't, in good conscience, invest too much more time into this. It's already been a fucking massive waste. So, I'll write the book. Try and live on the residuals, buy a log cabin. I'm enjoying lecturing. I'm a professor now. An adjunct professor, I should stipulate. But yeah, you know, last year or two. I don't know. You never know. I always just know when it's right to put the full stop at the end of a sentence. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Have you already started
Small
teaching,
exercise.
Rich?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lecturing at a university.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that had started yet or not.
Yeah, doing esports integrity. I did the first term as an adjunct professor. So in other words, with the professor in the room, and the professor is the brilliant Declan Hill, an award-winning journalist that I'm very privileged to know. And he basically throws it up to the class. Richard Lewis can tell you about this. Richard can tell you about that. Done a few classes, and now in March, I think it is, the course starts again. That'll be me. I'll be the guy in charge of the course. So it's nice because you meet young, bright-eyed, non-jaded people. It's like it's not just me and Duncan in a room saying, "How did it get to this?" So. That's nice, but I mean, ultimately, unfortunately, my optimism around the esports project, it's not there anymore. I think it's failed. I think it's an entertainment product now. I think what esports used to be has been polluted and corrupted by streamer culture. Too much streamer culture and entertainment culture, and it just kind of sucks. And no one really values what's important anymore. So, my future is like that, whatever, who gives a fuck? But I barely do. I'll be doing something cool. I just like to occupy my own time, Sorry, that's a bit bleak. I'm fine, guys.
That's all, the question was all for you.
Don't worry about me. It's all good.
All right. Well, we'll move to the next question.
My opinion on Richard's future.
What? Just sounded like such a fucking down. Like basically, if I'd written that down on a note and I was just dead in a chair, no one would have batted an eyelid there.
I'm going to be doing what I like.
If you do 15, 16, I don't even know how long it's been now. You do that amount of time in any industry, and your job is to basically turn over the stones. And if you knew all the things that I know, and you see all the trends that I see, you would feel the same way. Like nobody works a job for 15, 16 years anymore. It's fucking madness. It's mad in any line of work, let alone one as crazy as this.
All of my peers work for at most 3-4 years in any position before finding an exit strategy. And the worst thing I learned in esports recently is that the PGL audio engineer wasn't actually deaf. It was just that bad.
Way to bring it back.
Why was he talking like that then?
Oh my god.
There you go, Maui. Now all of the attention's on me.
All right. Next question. CrimsonJiMBo. With the recent engagement of Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly, what is your favorite gun in Counter-Strike, and who is the hottest male player? Okay, that was an intro to your question.
Already?
That was an interesting question. What's your favorite gun in Counter-Strike? We'll go round table on this. Auto sniper. All right. No, quick.
As a B player, the MP9, obviously.
All right, Pernogo, what's your favorite
choice?
Dude, I love the MP9. I picked the Scout.
Okay, Richard, what's your favorite gun?
Silenced M4, so glad it's OP and broken as fuck. It's been a long time overcoming. Silenced M4 gang for life. I never use the unsilenced M4. I never will. I don't care if it's broken and I don't care if it's shit. Silenced M4 forever. So I'm loving the current state of affairs.
That's how it is.
All right. Mine's AK because I love farming RWS. And who is the hottest male player? This guy asked 2 questions in one. We'll overlook that because it's a funny topic. I'm going to just go and say Jax.
OC.
No.
Oh my god.
No.
Jesus.
It's about personality.
Hang on, I'm bringing them all up. I'm bringing pictures.
Yeah, I'm literally looking through the top.
Because my mind's warped. Because didn't somebody feminize?
Yeah, somebody ran them all through a
filter.
filter.
That was
right.
Bad. That was bad.
There were some dudes who weren't hot but made hot chicks. So it's like, oh my god, my poor bisexual brain was already struggling.
You should go for shocks, I think, in that case. If you want the best male plus best female, feminized male, then that's what you would do.
You can just say that's your pick, Pernoga, that it's female shocks. You could just say it. You don't have to.
What do you think I am? Some kind of straight? Get out of here, dude.
No.
I mean,
Twist
is a cutie. It's kind of weird to say that because obviously I know the dude. Twist is...
We can just rate dudes. We're a bunch of
fine.
dudes that are comfortable rating dudes.
Pretty sure we're probably in violation of every code of Twitch conduct right now. But yeah, Twist is such a good-looking guy, and just like impeccable in terms of how he grooms himself and his hair and everything. Like that's a guy that you should aspire to be like if you're out there in the prime of your life and you want to get out there and meet people and stuff. Twist is the role model for that shit for real.
Yeah.
So
shout out to Mixmen. Yeah. Mix.
Like I was a good looking
Mix.
dude in my prime, if I do say so myself, but I was never, not even on my best day, was as good looking as Twist.
Yeah, I also love that he figured out the hair. Like he was clearly like working on it for a while, but you don't get as good as he is today without some errors. And he went through the trials and tribulations of stylings that, like there were some bad days and now there's a lot of good days.
There you go.
Sure. Yeah, it's got to be either Twists or Shocks for me.
Okay, that's it. I think, Pronogo, did you give one?
Oh, I was gonna say AleksiB just because of that smile, man. It always gets me. The green screen smile.
The way you say it, it always gets me. Like gets you where. Pronogo,
why'd you say it like
Pronogo? Put your body where it gets you.
Dude, you've like gone every time he smiles at me, dude. It just my knees go.
It all started with that smile,
bro. That's
you
crazy.
literally said it like the 13
Pause.
reasons why, like that smile.
that goddamn smile.
Prequel names or whatever the fuck. This is crazy shit.
Next question. Next sub question. We got Dirt Prof. Which player currently in the top 20 is going to drop the furthest in 2022? I kind of like this question. I like this one. So we got So just look at the list, and I would say even if you want to assume somebody in the top 10 is going to fall, because we should kind of know roughly who it's going to be. Like pick them too. I'm gonna go blame. Yeah, I might go Blamf personally. I think he's going to have to reinvent his role, which will give him less statisticals, which is going to make PTAR rate him lower.
Was Device even in the top 20 this time?
He's 11th.
Yeah, he got placed 11th today.
Yeah.
Then I picked Device.
Like, what the fuck?
I picked Device.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Get him out.
I'll say he might not fall all the way out of the top 20, but I think Hobbit will fall the most from where he'll be this year to next year.
Oh, that's a good. I mean, he's probably pretty far up there, right? So
he's going to be like
that is pretty solid.
Top 6, 7, I think. Probably 7th.
All right. Well, I need to look at the top 20 list. Where the fuck is it?
I could send a link right now.
Here.
Right, do it, because I'm clicking on all of the links on the front.
Is James actually going to be in the top 10?
I think James might be 9th or 10th.
Oh, don't!
I really think he might be.
I'll be sick.
No, leak it. I think
cannot comment. Cannot. I actually don't know any of the ones for what I'm not writing. So,
sorry. By the way,
I do know number 9.
For anyone listening, more questions. We already have the 5. Sorry about that.
I will say that
I'll do that one. It's fine.
I don't think Brokey will make the list at number 9. I don't think Brokey makes the list next year.
Okay. That's fair to think Brokey won't make it. Okay. All right.
Although I guess that's not dropping the furthest, to be fair.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
If you wanted to really keep super up close, you would have to pick somebody who he's in the list and would go down, but still be in the list next year. So I guess, or just dropping as far as possible. Like if he goes out, but he was top 10 or something, right? That's my bet.
I mean, James got to be a good pick. Like,
okay, yeah, James might be the pick actually. Yeah, I might be the one.
James is a pretty solid pick.
Okay, I think we all gave ours, right? Okay, so Vendetta just asked me, I guess, how is refrezh unique? And someone gifted him a sub just so that he could get this question. I mean, it's just that I was saying unique in context to his role on Heroic. It's not that I don't think refrezh is reinventing the meta of lurking, but he does have a lot of rounds where he just lurks and then like they create space, they do something on the other side of the map, then he finds a kill because there's a moment of transition, and I think that's valuable to Heroic in their mid rounding. It's why they are, I think, one of the better mid rounding teams in the upper echelon of Counter-Strike, because refrezh is probably providing a lot of information to them. So that's my simple answer for that question. Not Zumba Gaming though asks, my question is, what is your favorite dinosaur for just Pronogo? So everybody else shut up.
I don't even remember dinosaurs. I'll say the pterodactyl because I really like crows and they're kind of like crows. So
all right, okay, all right, just okay. This guy actually had a longer sub time, so I'm actually going to get to his question than someone you picked out. He said, what are thoughts on Gambit and whether they will win multiple tournaments in 2022 without a roster move? So this is, just make this open. Richard, do you think Gambit's going to win more tournaments? This is the last question of the day, by the way.
Put it this way, they got to, right? Like, I'm gonna just tell you this. It blows my mind. Like, if you ever want to talk, right, Na'Vi fans are insufferable because even when you say, I think Na'Vi should be the best team in the world, they go, no, wherever they are at any given moment is absolutely perfect. How dare you hate on them? It's like, don't you have any ambition for your own team, you fucking morons? Turns out, no, they don't. So they're insufferable for that. Astralis fans are obviously insufferable for other reasons. They just like to cheat. So, you know, G2 fans are cool, I guess. NIP fans
they're
are
fine.
fucking insufferable.
They're bad.
They're like still living on some mad, like just huffing copium all day, thinking that, you know, 2013, 2014 is going to come back. There's a ton of insufferable fan bases out there. But one thing I'll absolutely say is the Gambit fans have very quickly emerged as a really frustrating fan base for me because they absolutely seem to refuse that LAN Gambit was not the same as online Gambit. And I just can't truck with it. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw them massively disappoint. I saw them wilt and capitulate at the major against Na'Vi, a team who for the biggest part of the year they'd been beating easily and completely had their tactical number. And yet the fans are like, no, this is fine. Second place is fine. Actually finishing semi-finalists at the major when they had the weakest run possible out of any of the other teams there. It wasn't until they played Na'Vi that they played a real team that they shouldn't be capable of beating. So for me, I need them. I need Nafani to stop doing these stupid interviews, going like, "We will play the same in front of thousands of people."
How would you know? Ignorance. That's just pure ignorance.
How would you know? You've never fucking done it. It is different, homie. It is the fundamentals of the sport. And Ichiro, stop playing like a fucking pussy. It depresses me that at LAN, Hobbit just levels up because he's been there, done that. The wily veteran. It just depresses me that actually all the rest of those players, that incredible side that for like 6 months of the year was so good, are so timid on LAN. So that's got to change. They don't need a roster move. They just got to grow a set of nuts. Play like you do online at LAN. I believe in you. I don't think you're onliners. I don't think you're cheaters. Go fucking win a tournament.
Yeah. Anybody want to add to it? Anybody want to take it?
How can you follow that one up? I'll just say Gambit really did disappoint at the lands that they went to recently, even though they obviously, you know, you could say that they were in touching distance. Oh, they almost, maybe the last time they fought Na'Vi, they almost challenged them on a map. Like, come on, dude. They had Na'Vi's number in the online era. They were the consistent number one team for a pretty long while. The team to beat. The team that if you had to win an online tournament, you had to go through them at some point, unless it was region locked, in which case Akuma LOL. But even beyond that, like, you're still looking at pretty good situations with Gambit until they hit LAN, and that's really disappointing. And I hope they turn that around. I hope they actually do only need a few LANs or whatever Nafani said.
Hope so.
I think with the super teams that are coming in this year, they will not be able to do it without a roster change, even though they'll be in consistent contention for a title.
Yeah,
they won't be able to take one over the line.
I think they'll take one. I'll say it. I think they take one before they make a move. But it might be like a tier 1.5, kind of like that IEM Winter was. You know, like it might
be CIS RMR or something.
Nah, not even one with Na'Vi. Actually, just one with like maybe a missing team here or there. Like it might say A tier on Liquipedia. I think they'll win one of those. But I don't know. S tier seems like I'll say top 4 finish kind of thing. Okay. Let's do, so at the end of every show, Richard, we just do some quick shout outs to anyone or anything you want to shout out. It literally can be anything. So Richard, what do you want to shout out, or do you want to wait a bit and think of something?
Thanks for having me.
Sure.
It's nice to talk in front of an audience I wouldn't ordinarily do that in front of. And yeah, talking about CS is cool.
It is cool.
A rare timid and shy meek moment for Rich.
Yeah.
You don't get many of those.
No, I'm trying to think. Is there anyone special? I mean,
anyone.
Yeah, none of these bums in this Twitch chat. Fuck you all. I don't know. No, it's just
it doesn't necessarily have to be a person either.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I'll shout out fucking Carlos from G2 for no
That's a good
reason
one.
other than that motherfucker is just out of his mind. He linked me to that music video when it came out, and I was just saying, bro, look at all the views on that. Who the fuck would have thought you would have ended up where you're at when you founded Gamers 2? And he was just like, not me, bro. Like, so the guy's a legend. I love that guy. He's been a great friend for many, many years. Lucky to know him. And I really want G2 to do it this year, for real, for him.
Okay. All right, Pronogo, what's your shout out?
Shout out Game of Thrones.
Sure. Okay, all right. Note, what's your shout out?
Shout out dust2.us with the redesign. Please help support NACS. I don't even work for them anymore, but give them your support. They need it.
Awesome. Mix, what's your shout out?
I'll shout out Koi, being active in the chat, doing some cool things in collegiate CS. So,
okay,
cool to see.
I'll give a shout out to Heku. She's hosting the We Play Academy League. Also, she's literally, I don't think she can sleep because she's right across. She's literally on the other side of this wall that I've been speaking at for the last couple hours. So I think I've been keeping her up. But she's actually giving me her skincare products, which are like very highly rated skincare products, and they are helping. So Heku, this is for you. You've been doing a killer job.
Any recommendations?
And thank you for giving me snail juice on my face, and because it's making me look better than ever.
That phrasing is so unreasonable.
Leave it at that. Pronogo, cut it off.
Peace.